Good evening, this is Finance Committee meeting, May 11th, 2016. First item on the agenda is 4:27 minutes. Sir?
I want to make a motion to amend the minutes. Under Article 23, it says that the motion to move for a favorable recommendation was seconded by myself.
Yes?
It was not, so that's incorrectly listed as
Okay.
myself.
Who
I
was it?
believe it was Al Correa that seconded the motion, so
Who was the second?
Mr.
You were?
Correa.
Fix it, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can't remember, but he says it was my voice, so I believe it.
I heard him, but that's okay. Anything else? Where'd Phil go?
I think we need to take a little more time sometimes when we take these votes to give Diana the opportunity to properly.
Well, and she does, and she asks me all the time, and, yeah, so I thought it was Mike as well. But
Good news is, one way or another, it was
it
properly
was properly
seconded.
seconded.
So the vote-
Definitely was.
Right, where is Phil?
Get the tape to see.
Okay. Next item on the agenda.
Look on YouTube.
Mr.
Oh, we need to vote on this.
Move to
Vote as
accept-
amended.
You guys are driving me crazy right now. Okay, I need a motion on the floor to
Move
vote
as amended.
as amended.
Second.
Chuck seconded. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, even though half of them weren't here. All right, next item on the agenda is Article 2 and Article 3. I think we were remiss at the last meeting not voting on Article 3. Article 3 has nothing to do with the Personnel Board. The Article 3 is part-time elected officials. So that, if you,
Motion to accept.
there you go. All right, motion to accept Article 3, all in favor? Opposed? All right,
Who was the second? Chuck?
Anyone know what the percent increase is, FY 16 to 17 for these positions?
yes, I know,
1%?
yes, it's 1%.
Bobby, I think.
It's 1%.
Okay.
Chuck was on the committee.
Bobby,
1%.
except for two of them, if you look at our report, we actually changed it this year where we put last year's and this year's and the percentage change. So they were virtually all 1% except for two that were 2% and one that was 1.1.
And that document is up on our list as well, under town meeting reports. All right, next item on the agenda is Article 2, Personnel Board. After the last meeting, we asked the Personnel Board to come back with some more information, and I emailed Chairman Charlie a couple of questions that I thought this committee needed to understand. The questions I asked were similar to what we said before, you know, what was the objective here? What's broken? What are we trying to fix? Second, how, over the last 5 years, what's been the attrition rate in the town based on the salaries not being acceptable? Next item I asked for was, of the new hires over the last 5 years, how many of those meet the new criteria and salary levels? And there was one more question that I asked Charlie, and I totally forgot what it was, but it was, oh, I asked for a chart.
0%.
I asked for a chart on where the present employees are on the pay scale and how they fit into the new pay scale. That's where we're at tonight. So Charlie sent me a bunch of information. If you go on, under subcommittees, under Human Services, under Personnel Board, those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 charts talk about the salaried employees and where they were and where they are, and how it is affects the increases versus 2% or 0%. And that's what I'd like to start the discussion with tonight, if we can. Because I want to start there and then come back to the other questions.
Can I give a brief description which kind of answers all of them?
Absolutely.
Very brief.
Why don't you come up here?
Where is it under, Mark?
It's under subcommittees,
Yep,
human services,
wait a minute,
personnel board.
okay.
And,
Human Services.
ladies and gentlemen, we're still getting used to the technology, okay? Sometimes it's a struggle.
Either Mike, yeah.
Yeah, you need a mic. So which one are we gonna talk about first?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, committee members, I keep thinking of you as a board, you're a committee. I have a brief, two-page, large font discussion here. Essentially, the study was not done because of a retention problem, which was mentioned a couple of times. The study was done to update the current classification and compensation study, which was done over 10 years ago. We were charged to review all the salary and hourly Article 2 positions for their current and accurate job descriptions and establish proper ranking and job classifications to be consistent with the changing organizational structure of the town. The initial request of your committee was to also include elected officials, which we could not do.
Right.
After that portion of the study was completed, we surveyed 13 communities, 10 from the previous study, and we added 3 additional towns, as we discussed at the last meeting. And this was done to set competitive salary ranges for both the salary and hourly positions. The new proposal is not as complicated as was presented. All job descriptions have been updated, and the positions have been ranked under the proposed plan. The only changes we introduced included the 3 grades for hourly, the 5 grades for salary, and the 8 steps to take into consideration the market data. As to the difference between grade levels, simply put, the higher the grade level number, the more education and years of experience are required, and the level of responsibilities increase, and the amount of supervisory duties also increases. And that's the main difference between each grade level. We included your packet the spreadsheets comparing the proposed plan versus a 2% increase each year and for 3 years, and similar comparison versus the 0%. Again, these are for salaried employees. We as a board have concerns with the hourly proposed rates. Based upon our further review and feedback from both your committee and from employees, we feel that the steps need adjustment and too many people will be above step 8. We are meeting on Saturday morning to discuss an amendment to Article 2 to address these concerns. As soon as the board approves an amendment, we will send it along to your committee. As to your request for review of applicants and their qualifications, as I stated in my response, our board is not included in most of the hiring process. Our board does not review applicants, nor do we conduct interviews. If the Board of Selectmen or department head advertises interviews and hires a new employee, we only get involved if they request a hiring at above a step 1. At that point, the hiring authority submits to us a resume and an 8-page form, which we review using our rating manual to evaluate their request for a higher step. Our board has been working closely with Finance Director Zach Taylor and his department. They have assisted us in gathering data and reviewing all the data that we have put together. He and his department have been an invaluable resource. I think he's here. He's here. As I see.
Round of applause for Zach.
Yeah, as I see, he is present, as he is to almost too many meetings, I'm sure. So if you want to ask him for any input, he's available. At this point, we welcome your questions and comments.
Okay, and I'm sure this committee understands that. But if I were doing a comprehensive review of salaries and grades and job descriptions, I think I might want to know what the town's hired over the last 5 years and how they would fit in, just for comparison purposes. And I know you don't get involved in the hiring process, and I'm not sure that's either right or wrong. But as a board, taking up a situation where it involves hires, I would have done the research back to the town administrator or whomever and say, look, give me all the people that you hired over the last 5 years, how many applicants you got per job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you know, at that level, if there is a problem, okay, in our salary structure, because I'm not sure there is. And hope for A. B, the grade levels you have, and I know the selectmen have mentioned it, some of well, grade level 1, for instance, is 3 to 5 years' work experience.
Those are minimum requirements.
Right, but what if you have a
it's
college,
zero.
it should say 0 to 3,
It says
in my
0.
opinion. No, the one I have is 3 to 5.
That was an early one. We amended that to 0.
Oh, so it was fixed, so it's 0 to 3.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I don't have that. All right, so going back then, if we, let's look at, want to look at the salary levels, where they were, where they are now, and
You want me
where,
to put the slides up, or?
if you don't mind. I mean, we all have it, I think, if we can find it. So first slide says step 8, step plan comparing 2007 old, assuming 0 for the old plan. So what I see is like the benefits coordinator, right now makes a salary, and that falls into grade 3. And so the next step would be a grade 4 shot, and that's where you have it Xed on.
Well, actually, the salary is $70,248 with a proposed 2% increase for this year.
No, 0%.
These are the 2% slides. I do have the 0% slides if you want to look at those first.
All right, I'll bring up the 2% slide.
That one is
I'm sorry.
Says 0 at the top.
0%
That is
slide.
it. Says a 0 at the top.
Uh, It's a 0% slide, but this particular person has a step increase for this year. That's why they're getting an increase. Okay?
Yeah, 0% plus step, right? They're like
Right.
all
It-
three.
it-
Correct.
existing.
In the new plan.
No, even in the old plan, they were getting a step increase this year.
And the step would have been at 71, 70, whatever the, I gotta go back and find the other
With the
one.
step, they would have been at 70,248.
Right,
Right.
okay.
So under the new plan, we placed them at 70,978,
So they got,
which is step 4.
so they got a bigger step increase.
That's correct.
The variance is $730 for the year for that step.
Particular position, right.
But am I to understand that you said Saturday you're gonna meet and change all this?
No,
Not the
hourly.
salary.
Salary
no.
is fixed.
Okay.
The hourly we're concerned with.
What, I'm sorry, I'm a little slow then. Salary is fixed,
The salary as presented is correct.
but the hourly salaries are gonna change?
There is no hourly
Oh, the
salary.
hourly
There's
rate.
Hourly personnel,
Right.
and the hourly personnel, the plan that we submitted, we're not happy with. And a lot of the employees aren't either. So we'd
That's what
like-
we're
we'd
hearing.
like to fix that.
Okay, and you're gonna fix it 2
With
weeks?
an amendment on the town meeting floor.
All right, I wanna finish the salaried one first,
Okay.
if we don't mind. I just wanna understand, when we went through all the salary lists, how many people, how many salaried positions end up in the top step?
3.
I see 2.
3.
Okay,
There's one,
I see 2.
town
Town
planner,
planner.
Town planner, police lieutenant, period,
police lieutenant.
right.
You said how many wind up in the top step?
Top step,
Eighth step.
step 8, 2.
Yes, two.
And what is the plan for the step 8 personnel next year?
I can show you the next slide if you want, or we can just discuss it, whatever.
Just give me a number.
Our plan right now would be to adjust their salary if they've already reached step 8, adjust it by some percentage that we would pass by the finance committee first. And
Each year.
determine then to bring it down to town meeting floor and
Currently,
adjust it
yeah,
accordingly.
currently this year, it's 1% for those that are above step 8.
Because? I mean, cost of living is 0. Those of us on Social Security know what the cost of living is.
In actuality, Charlie, we
And-
don't have anybody above step 8 this year in salary,
All right, but I mean, you have,
above step 8
no,
next year.
next year will be above step 8, right?
Oh, okay.
Because you have 2 people in step 8 now.
Right.
And so next year, when I look at the chart, one of those people disappear from the chart. And one of them, they both disappear from the chart.
They both disappear from
From,
the chart?
from the step grade. What did we have? We had the police lieutenant and
Town planner.
the town planner.
Correct.
And they're not on the, they have a salary, but they're not on this chart. No X's. So they're-
Next year.
Next year, 18.
So next year, they will have maxed out, and we will take the max pay.
Not maxed out, they're above step 8.
We have a consultant that doesn't like the word max, so I'm gonna take that
Well,
word
I just,
back. They have reached the last step, step 8. So we're gonna take that step and multiply it by some small percentage, whether it be 1% or 2%, to give those people a percentage increase, provided the economy is such that it allows us to do so.
Has that changed?
hold on.
Oh, sorry.
good.
Dennis, if you were to do that, would that not skew the rest of the salary schedule? Because I'm presuming what comes below that has some relationship to what is at the top level now. And if you skew the top level and move it up, that creates a differential, is it, between the second last step and the top step? I thought we were trying to.
There wouldn't be another step added.
I understand that.
It would only be an adjustment to those people who have reached
If they're
top
here,
step.
if they're here, and that's the top out, and there is no COLA,
Yes,
okay? Everybody here moves up because they get a step. Now here, if you move it up, now you create a differential between 7 and 8, that's.
not 7 and 8, between 8 and the top
8 and
pay.
something.
Okay, 8 and something, but there is still gonna be a differential.
Yes,
and
there
it's-
will.
It's gonna be skewed.
But you have that now, Chuck.
See, Mr. Chairman, if I might, what we have is, you know, not much different than what we've been doing. When we've had people who've reached the top step, you know, we don't like the term COLA, because it really hasn't always been a COLA. Cost of living is a certain percentage, sometimes we've gone beyond that, okay? So, we would call it, once someone has reached their top step, that we would do a salary adjustment. And the reason we would do a salary adjustment is because we don't think it would be fair to have someone who has gotten to the top level, that they can get it to, based on their experience, qualifications, and longevity. Those are all the things that factor in to getting along the steps. And so, we would do what we've been doing for several years, which would be to come up with a recommendation only for those positions as to what a salary adjustment would be. For this year, if we had someone at, I believe it would have been 1% for anyone who would maxed out. But not maxed out, we would hit the top step. That's no different than what we've been doing since I've been on this board for almost probably 20 years. And that's always been the way it's been done. So when I say what we're doing is, the new system isn't all that revolutionary. I think at the last meeting, we went a long way to confusing you. And we're trying to simplify it. And what we have is basically we have a step plan, and we have grade levels. We've just changed, the number of those slightly. But it's the same format. We're basically following similar pattern. We're using the same informational tools that we have been using since the Bennett study 15 years ago, or 14 years ago. So we're really not presenting anything that's that different. What we're trying to do, the only difference between what we're doing now and what we've done in the past is we've added the component of trying to make salaries and hourly pay based on competitiveness with the marketplace. That's the difference. In the past, we basically were doing comparisons of internal rather than external information. What I mean by that is, we would compare where the Article 2 people were in comparison to the union people who were the other employees in town. Many of whom do similar positions. If you have a secretary, for instance, who's in the union, their union negotiates increases for them under the contract, which your board has no control over that, basically. You have to live with it. So what we had done, and historically over the years, one of the primary functions of the personnel board was to try to bring the non-union people under Article 2 into competitive range of the people in Milford who are union people. The only difference now is we went on outside of Milford and we acquired and obtained market data from other communities. And we are trying to not only do an internal comparison, but we're using external data to make sure that the salaried positions are competitive with the rest of the market, other towns. I mean, I hope that clarifies it a little bit for you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Warren, that was helpful. I mean, at our last meeting, there was just a lot of material presented, and we were really in the weeds, and I think most of us came away with really not understanding it. But, I think your summary was helpful. When do we how often do we go to market? I just want to get a sense. I mean, the market comparison makes sense. It gives, the non-union group some type of benchmark externally. I understand that, I get that, but how often do you go to market? How do you?
This is actually the first time.
No, but I know, but every year, what happens next year and the year after? I just wanted some sense as to how it rolls out.
Our plan was to go to the marketplace on an annual basis with some of the salaried positions. And over 3 years, we felt that we'd be able to complete all of the salaried positions. So every 3 years, we would have reviewed all salary grades.
So you do a third, a third, a third.
Right.
And realistically, Phil, to answer your question, because this is new to us, this is new, that part of the system is new. Just a conservative guess would be, I wouldn't expect any changes or any major changes, certainly for at least 5 years. It would probably take 5 years for the market to change, and maybe it wouldn't. But don't forget, we're gonna have people, there's a midpoint that is where, that we use, that's competitive. Anything above that is slightly above the market. So, we aren't gonna be, in the past, we were always trying to catch up. Now, we hope that we're competitive now and that we're gonna stay that way. So, there's can't give you exact answer because we don't know. This is new.
So when you go to market, we're talking about these 13 communities, correct, that we're using as a basis of comparison. So when you establish the market price, do you take an average of that 13? I think that's
I think our consultant could, because he's done this. We
Yeah,
have.
no,
Yeah, I think what I tried
I'm
to
just
show you
trying
last
to, I'm
time-
trying to take it at a high level. It's all very simple.
Right.
He's gonna keep it
Simplify it,
short and simple.
Okay.
You don't want me to say anything, I won't say anything.
No, that's not the issue. I'm just trying to get at
I
a
think it's
summary
important.
perspective.
What Warren is alluding to that is different is how you use the market data. You know, the town has always surveyed the marketplace periodically whenever they felt there was a need to do that. It's how you use the market data that I've now recommended be changed so that the board is able to maintain a consistent process in defining the word competitive. And as I think I explained to you last time, the reason why we don't need to survey every single position every year is that we're really only surveying enough positions consistent with the grade level structure. And if you recall, the grade level structure basically reflects levels of responsibility. And that's what defines grade level 1 through grade level 2, 3, 4, and 5, or in the hourly positions, grade levels 1, 2, and 3. So as long as you survey enough positions, so there isn't any minimum or maximum number that you have to survey, that reflects the levels of responsibility within the town of Milford, then you're always getting a sense of the marketplace relative to how it compares to the town of Milford by level of responsibility or by grade level, okay? Which is why you don't need to survey every single position every single year. You only need to survey the marketplace enough so that you have enough data that you can define the word competitive.
And,
We rule out the lows and the highs of the data.
Okay, we understand how we do that.
yeah, all right.
All right. Albert?
Warren, thank you for acknowledging that I am one that is totally confused. I have no idea what we're doing, why we're doing it, because obviously when I ask a question, pay bands. When you say competitive, if you're not competitive, you can't attract and maintain high-quality people. Yet when I ask a question of the town administrator, he says, no, we get 30, 40 applicants, more than half are well-qualified. So we're not having a problem attracting people. Doesn't seem like a lot of people leave, so we're not having a problem maintaining them. And you talk about competitive, to me, that's the ultimate competition, is are we paying our people fairly? Because that's my question. Now, when I see this, I'm just getting a feeling that it's too fast. We're getting a lot of data thrown at us. Last year, we had the same problem, and we said, please, bring us in, help us understand. And I'm in the same
Have
place.
your liaison join us.
Chuck was there. Chuck went to a lot of the meetings.
Okay, then I apologize, because I did not understand what's going on here. I want to support it, but I don't know how. There's too many questions. We say competitiveness. Well, we're looking at the market outside of Milford, but we're trying to bring it into the union range. There's just too many conflicting pieces.
If I could just address your question about competitiveness, what the town was not able to do in the past is be able to define the word competitive so they could explain to an employee whether or not your salary today is competitive or not. We just never had a way to do that, other than just looking at market data.
The question I would ask with that is, why is that important if they're happy and the pay is reasonable?
I couldn't tell you whether employees are happy or not, that's not the point. The point is, well, how do I know if someone's happy or
They're
not?
still working here. They haven't left.
Well, it doesn't mean they're necessarily happy or not, but yes, they are. But the
Happy
point is,
with
we're not
salary level.
communicating to them. We're not talking to them about explaining to them whether their salary is being paid competitive. The outcome of the study basically showed that most of the employees in the town right now are in fact being paid competitively.
Right.
Period.
We agree.
There were only, like, if you look at the salaried positions, as Dennis just indicated to you, of all the salaried positions, there were 2 individuals whose current salary right now is above step 8. What that basically means is that they're being paid competitively, right? And that's good news.
We all agree to that. We've known that.
So that's
from
the
day
point
one.
of
That's
the
point.
study.
So why turn everything upside down?
Why change it?
The only-
Not
We
we
haven't,
turned everything
we have
upside
not
down.
turned it upside down.
The only thing that's
It's
changed.
the
We have
same
never
as
turned
it
it
was.
Whoa,
One
whoa.
person is it?
Nobody can hear 15 people talking at the same time. Please, one at a time.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, the only thing that's changed, and I think Charlie mentioned it at the beginning, are the number of grade levels.
That's a change. Big
Right,
change.
and the reason for the change in the grade levels had nothing to do with the marketplace. It had everything to do with the organizational structure of the town. And that the previous classification structure was not consistent with the organizational structure that exists today in the town of Milford. Hence the need to establish 3 grade levels or 3 levels of responsibility for hourly, and 5 levels of responsibility for salary. That structure, 5 grade levels for salary and 3 for hourly, is consistent with the way the town of Milford today is organized, based on level of responsibility. That has nothing to do with the marketplace. It has everything to do with what people are actually doing today and what their respective levels of responsibility are. That's the significant change. To go from 8 grade levels to 5 for salaried and 3 for hourly is really nothing more than allowing the classification plan to catch up to who the town of Milford is today.
And see, I would hope that we would be able to understand the logic behind it. Now, I apologize, because I did not catch up with Chucky to get a download. But I just have this feeling, I heard before you were proposing that we lock people that are at their maximum step at 1% increase. Now I hear it's changed
No,
since,
that's what we decided for this year.
okay. And then
Next year,
you're
depending
getting
on what
together,
the situation is with the town, with the finances, with what's being proposed with other, it may change.
okay, and then you're getting together this Saturday or next Saturday to
This Saturday.
so we won't be able to see your real proposal, whatever you change the bands to.
We'll send you the Article 2 amendment for hourly.
Yes, but as a FinCom, unless you call a special meeting, we won't be able to vote on it or discuss it.
Right.
Because open meeting law, we can't get a bunch of us together and go through it.
Right.
You can't do it over the.
Can't do it over the email.
Can't do it over the email,
Do it at the coffee shop.
so, yes, please.
That's why we couldn't have it for you tonight.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that's why we
would've.
couldn't meet until Saturday, because we had
It just,
to,
it seems like we're back to where we were, that there's a lot of things we don't understand. And, I mean, I'd rather ask that they wait 3 months and get us involved so we understand it. And guess what? If it happens again that nobody explains it, I'm sorry, I'll be in the same spot. I want to support it, but I have to understand it to be able to support
I
it.
understand that you need to understand it.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, it might help the Finance Committee if you look at the whole plan in 2 parts and literally take it one step at a time. The first recommendation of the Personnel Board is to establish, again, 5 grade levels for salaried and 3 for hourly. I don't hear any member of the Finance Committee questioning that.
That's a don't care.
Is that correct?
That's a don't care. That was fine.
All right, so that part of the.
What did you say? It's a what, a don't care?
Don't care for that, for this part. We understand, that was fine.
So everyone,
And
I'm
the
not asking
only
for a
question
vote.
I had about that is what I said at the beginning. It's, the grade level 1 salaried position said 3 to 5 years experience, and I'm saying, what do you do with, but I didn't see a change, so.
An example of how how things have changed, you had people that used to report to the selectmen now report to Zach.
Right,
So the organizational structure has changed.
right. We
The step
understand that as
plan,
well.
it covers that.
And I think that part of the plan looked fine to me. I
I'm
didn't have
sorry,
any problem with
Wait a
that.
minute now, just because you change who I report to affects my pay?
No,
No.
no, not at all.
Then if, what is it?
Well,
I
that's
mean,
one of the criteria that's looked at.
is who you report to?
It's not who you report to, it's what your level of responsibility is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Has,
I reported to the selectmen, I had a job.
Gentlemen, you
I
have,
now report to Zach. Why has anything changed?
right, because his
Because
organization.
your level of responsibility has
Before, you may
changed.
have been a supervisor. You may have had people reporting to you. Now, you don't have anybody.
Warren, that I'm okay with. If you
Yeah.
change my job.
That's
But
what we're
that's
talking about.
Right.
Okay, but
That's
it's
what
not
Chuck-
because I
that's what
now
Chuck-
report to Zach.
That's what
All
Chuck-
right, all right.
What I
Whoa.
meant was your job has changed
Gentlemen,
because
okay.
of that
All right,
situation.
look.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't
As
explain
we've,
myself.
as we've stated a number of times, most of us on this board come from industry, not municipal government. And we all have salary grades and salary ranges and job descriptions that fit into certain salary ranges. And the objective in the industry is always to take an employee and move them through the range of their job description. And once they get above the midpoint, is to expect them to be promoted to the next level. So you could start back at the beginning and you never max out. Because if you max out in industry, you get red circle typically, and you get cost of living if they have it. If they don't have it, you get nothing. And that's true in industry, right? It's always been true. And based on the world over the last 3 years, and based on my wife's position, and she works for a very large company, there were years, 2 years ago, 3 years, they got no raises. And, you know, so we don't have that situation here. We have people that follow a plan, that step through a grade to the maximum with no opportunity to advance to the next level, because that's not how municipal government is typically. And so we need to, in my opinion, we need to provide a way for those people that have advanced to the top level to get further. And cost of living on 1% doesn't do that. Because typically, on the salary levels and on your new plan, your grades, I mean, your steps are over 6% increases. And the hourly, I could do the quick
Flat
math.
dollar amount.
Huh?
It's a flat dollar amount, so
Right.
percentage-wise, it changes with the step.
Right, so it's a decreasing
Correct.
increment. And the 6% is significant. I mean, we don't have unions getting 6% increases
Let's
for openers.
look at the bottom line though, Mark.
Well, that's where we're getting to. I want to look at the bottom line.
That's what
Well,
you're gonna
in the current plan, the people get a step increase and a cost of living.
Right, I understand that.
But under this plan, they only get
Get a
the
step increase. Right.
until they get to the top. And
So-
then there's an adjustment that this year we're proposing a 1%.
So if we agree in principle that all the steps and all the grades and all the ranges and all the levels are okay and accurate, regardless of their competitive against the outside world, what's the incremental cost to the town on an annual basis? This year, 2017 budget. Because I don't think we should sit here and argue or discuss further.
$24,270 for first year, which is 2.46%.
That's the salary.
Yeah.
What about hourly?
Hourly is very difficult to compute. I mean, hourly, first of all, is you got an hourly wage rate. You don't have a salary.
Right?
Secondly, the hourly people are, some of them work 30 hours a week, some of them work 40 hours a week.
Some get
Some of them
overtime.
work part-time. So it's difficult to say how much that's gonna really mean over an annual period of time. I mean, I could go back, look at last year's hours and try to plug it in that way, but you can't do it going forward.
Zach?
If you were to actually look at the hourly and try to summarize that into, annualize it, I believe it would actually be a reduction over if we move forward with a 2% increase, and it would be less than the 2% on the hourly side. And if we look at the salary, the number that he said was accurate, but in comparison to a 2%, it's really about $3,000 higher in year one.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions, if I could, please. How many positions in the town, job descriptions, did you actually review in total? Everyone. I'm sorry? All of them. Yes, how many? Number-wise, I did. There's, I think there's somewhere.
I wanna say 80, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure that
well,
that's accurate.
those are the number of people. The jobs probably,
Oh, 68.
Are you on the committee? Okay, 68, 70. Of those positions, how many of them actually received an increase or went up a grade or a step? Pardon me. As a result of your analysis
Oh, how many changed levels? Is
Yes.
that what you're asking?
on the upside, right?
Because we have a different structure, the old structure was different from the new. On the hourly side, it's very difficult.
to
make that
What he's
comparison.
asking is, of the 100 and something employees under this plan, how many got a raise on your new system?
Everyone,
Everyone.
everyone.
Everyone got a raise. How many were stayed level or actually were downgraded?
None. None got down. You don't downgrade.
You can't take money away from people.
Okay, how many was it recommended that you, for want of a better term, feathered their salary to bring them in line with what they should receive? None.
None.
I wish Chris was here, because he made a good analogy at the last meeting, in that, I believe it was 13 towns that you looked at. When he reviewed the demographics, he made a case for the fact that they were not similar in Milford, that their per capita income was higher. I don't remember what the numbers were.
That's true. 10 of the 13 per capita income was higher than Milford.
So that would
That
generate.
was, that was brought up last year, and that's why we added the 3
And those were the
that were
10 that we
below.
did 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, same
Well, that,
towns.
and the other question, Warren, I think you mentioned about resurveying or redoing this every year. Would we expect these 13 towns to change, or are these 13 towns cast in cement? Where we always look at the same 13, because if that's the benchmark, one would think that we wouldn't have to ever go outside of these 13.
Let the
Could I respond to that? No, the answer
Warren
is,
made the point, if he wants to
Yeah,
defer
I'm
to you, it's
sorry.
fine with me.
But he's
He's the expert.
go ahead.
yeah, I think I indicated to the board last time, the board actually used 2 criteria to select comparable municipalities. One with demographics, but the other one were operational criteria. And I think I indicated to you that the operational criteria, in my opinion, really are more accurate, more realistic with respect to comparing what someone is required to do in one town in comparison to another town, not the demographics. So per capita income, for example, really has nothing to do with what someone actually necessarily does in one community versus another, which is why we're using two criteria. And not every community necessarily was surveyed for the same positions because of the operational criteria. Even though we surveyed 13 total,
Might not all have the
we didn't
same.
do a plain vanilla survey. We did it based on operational criteria. So and if you look at the data we gave you, you'll see the number of responses that we got for the different positions. They're not all the same. Nor were the communities we surveyed all the same as well. So again, when we talk about demographics, that's the reason why we're recommending ruling out the average minimum and the average maximum of the data we collected.
I'm
So
glad
we're
you,
focusing on the midpoint.
I'm glad you mentioned operational criteria, because I asked you to send that to me at the last time we met, and you took my email down, and it slipped your mind, which is not an issue, but I did ask you to send me what this operational criteria was. But be that as it may, you still haven't answered my question. Are these 13 towns now, the
Should sound
13
no.
towns we're only gonna look at
No.
forever and a day? So
Not
that's
at all.
gonna change.
Absolutely.
It could, doesn't,
So that is gonna skew the
Not
numbers.
necessarily. Again, that's why we're ruling out the lows and the highs of the data to begin with. So we're only focusing on the midpoint of the average of the data. Remember, there was a chart in your packet that was entitled Proposed Salary Ranges to Survey Data.
Yes, I do.
And as I took you through it, I explained that we took the survey data for each group of positions by grade level, not just one position. And we took the average midpoint of each group
Right.
to establish, as you see up on the chart there, a benchmark salary as a guide to help us then establish a minimum and a maximum range structure.
Okay. Next question. If there is an individual today that is on step 5, top salary for that position, and that position
Would
now
be step 8.
is now gone to step 8, why doesn't that person go, and has all the qualifications, why doesn't that person go up to the state eight's step 8 salary?
I'm sorry,
I didn't
I don't
understand
understand the question.
Yeah, I didn't.
We
I
went
didn't
from
get it
5 to 8.
Right.
We went from 5 steps to 8 steps, correct,
Now, a person today that is on step 5,
yes.
top salary, under the new structure, they don't automatically go up to 8, at least according to.
No, they,
No,
they,
Not at all.
they would go to 6.
Yeah. But why not?
Depending
Why
on
would they
salary.
go up to
And not
Depending on salary.
necessarily, you're right.
It's a whole different structure.
Stay at 5 and just
No,
work
no.
their way up to 8.
They look at a comparative
structures.
They com-
salary.
we
and
compare
start
the
at that.
salary.
compare the salary, they may end up a 6 or a 7, depending
You
on
could
what
end
their
up at
current
step 3
salary
if that's the
is,
salary.
and where it
compared-
fits
You've
into
looked at a
the.
position, and you said, this position should pay this much money, and I'm in this slot at this point, and I have all the qualifications and all the background and the education. You're now saying that I have to wait 2 more years to get up to that salary. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're wrong.
I'm wrong.
Yes.
So everybody's gonna go to step 8 that's on step 5 now? That's my point.
What they did, excuse me.
Not at all.
What,
Go ahead, Ron.
what the chart shows, if I understand it, if you were at step 5, before they increased the number of steps, you don't go to step 8, you go to a step that's within that range.
I got it.
It might not, and the step 8 number is now higher than where the step 5 number is.
Right.
So it may take you
Thanks,
2 more
Pat.
years, but you'll make more money at the end of the day.
But I have to wait 2 years perhaps.
Or you get.
You're still getting more than you're getting now.
Or you keep the original program, you're at the top level, and you
just
get
increase
bupkis.
it. Well, you could
No,
increase
you get
it.
2%.
2%.
If,
Well, you get no
Well,
step.
And that's,
Whoa,
he's saying
That's
zero.
that's what we've been doing.
2% is not a given. It's
No.
whatever you recommend for the year, okay? So you may in fact get some more money, or you may not. But this at least tells you, you can go at least 2 more steps to make some, 2 more bucks an hour, pretty much.
Right.
Okay. You got a
Again,
simple-
just the last comment, I need a little bit more time to digest this. I think we've looked at this for a couple of years, and we've had probably an hour and 15 minutes to review it and analyze it. It's just not enough time for me.
Hold on.
I probably misunderstood something. We spoke of the adjustment of salaries for the hourly folks, if they're at a position where they have nowhere to go. If we're looking at the people that are in the benchmark game, as it were, and they reach the top level, and there's a downturn in the economy, and suddenly the benchmark moves left rather than right, we know we can't take money away. So they'll hold on to their salary. If, you know, for 2 years, the economy really tanks, are we gonna be talking about making an adjustment for those people that are frozen, as we did with the folks that had reached their upper level on the salary line? Are we gonna be back saying, well, we can't, because if we're gonna pay them more because the benchmark says we pay them more, are we gonna say to them, you're gonna stay where you are now for the next 2 years or 3 years until the economy becomes a bit more robust, so that now the benchmark begins to move to the right again? Are we gonna face that? And I realize you don't have a crystal ball, but if that were the case today, in much the same manner as you've spoken about the salaried folks, would we be hearing the same rationale for the people that fall into the benchmark area? That's what concerns me.
I think that's true now, though.
all right, Aldo, if I understand what you're asking, okay? We've had there are a couple of positions in town who have maxed out,
Under the old plan.
you know, under the old system years ago.
Right, they're red circles.
And
we call them.
those
Oh,
people
red circle.
only get what we used to call the COLA, if 2%, if that. I mean, there's no room for them to grow, and in fact, those same 2 positions now, I think one of them is at the top, will be at the top, and one actually is now gonna have some growth. So, but I think where you're going is if, when we did our review, okay, if the economy takes a downward spiral, then the benchmark would be lowered based on the data that we get. And so the steps would probably decrease. The only difference is that we're not going to allow, someone is not gonna be able to get less than what they're already getting.
You wouldn't do that. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't,
If.
my opinion
listen,
is that the market data wouldn't change downward, because nobody's gonna take money away from people.
Exactly. What'll happen is this.
Salaries are gonna remain the same.
The same, it's gonna stay the same. It's not gonna change.
Well, they're gonna stay the same. But
Yeah.
are we gonna be looking for adjustments?
No.
There have been years when we've said 0 increase.
Right,
We'd have to do the same thing on a down year.
right.
I just
But we
wanna-
wouldn't change the ranges because
No.
that's A, not fair, B, not feasible, and C, not correct. I mean,
This one, may I? With the reach the top limit on an individual salary, I negotiated contracts for a number of years with the school departments, and they're all very steps. It could be 7 steps, 8 steps, 12 steps, however many steps. They actually reach a maximum at some point in the person's life there. There is no salary adjustment at the end of that, other than whatever kind of adjustment is negotiated with the community. If it's a 2%, that's what they get. So, this is somewhat different than the benchmark, but there is that possibility that somebody's going to sit on one salary for 2 or 3 years.
There is a
Okay.
possibility,
Yeah.
they do now.
I mean, that's true, right, they do now.
okay.
And I think, as we said earlier, in industry, that happens all the time. If you don't get that promotion to the next level, because normally in industry, there's always a place to go. In municipal government, there isn't, okay? You can't go from
The town planner is the town planner.
Town planner, right. There's no assistant town planner, senior town planner.
Right.
You know, grand poobah, town
just-
planner.
one
So-
quick question.
So you're stuck with that range, and I understand that, and I think we all understand that. What we're concerned about is this is so confusing, but it's so simple, and I think that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Mr. Chairman,
Can't understand, because it is so, well, go ahead.
there's one last,
Yeah,
Mike
Mike,
over there.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about, once you reevaluate, you said you were gonna revisit the market data every 3 years.
No, annually.
Annually, a third of the positions annually, so that every 3 years you looked at all of them. I'm looking at your spreadsheet for,
Grade levels, not positions, grade levels. We will look at categories, positions within grade levels. Every 3 years, we'll cover all grade levels.
but are you planning on adjusting, cause right now I'm looking at 2019, and it's the same numbers as 2017.
Correct.
Are you planning on adjusting those numbers
No,
annually?
no.
So these numbers are forever staying at
Not
these
forever.
Nothing's forever.
If the midpoint turns out to be 10% off from the market data, then we've got to decide whether or not we need to go back to town meeting and say,
So eventually
have
these
changed,
numbers
we
will
need to
be
present.
adjusted.
pardon?
Eventually these numbers will be adjusted.
I can't say
Yes.
eventually, but more than likely,
Yes.
maybe not in my lifetime.
So if someone is currently maxed out their steps, when the steps are readjusted, could they go back to the midpoint and then every year get an annual increase?
That would be tough.
No.
That would be tough to do without getting a promotion
No.
to the next
No.
level.
no.
But I'm just saying, if the market were to get skewed, for, let's say there's a sudden demand for a position, and the market data shows that they, you know, what they're getting paid right now is, more comparable to a step 5, are you gonna adjust them to a step 5 at their current rate, and then give them step?
I think, if I could, Mr. Chairman?
No.
There you go. No. Just quickly,
So they would say it's step 8,
The answer is no.
so then I'm a little confused as to why someone with 31 years of experience would be a step 7 right now if they're currently a step 5 maxed out. Currently.
That-
Because their current salary adjusted to the new chart,
Comparatively,
comparatively, they're still getting a raise, they're just not getting, if that was the case, somebody that was currently a step 5, say at what I don't know what step 5 currently is, but,
Chairman,
yeah, maybe Zach, if you can explain it better.
so the result of the study is as you see it here. Everybody that in their current position will be placed at the closest related position here, which is why it may not be top step.
Right, I get that.
It wouldn't be a jump
We
of
get that.
$10,000, we're gonna go to the closest position without going less.
Right.
And that may not be top step, so then they would increase, they would step annually as the plan would propose, which is similar to the current plan. And now the COLA would only be applicable to those that were in, step 8 for the second, third, fourth, and
Right.
beyond.
Right.
So in essence, it's almost grandfathering individuals at top step for, the number of years of service.
Same as we have now.
What I'm
But another
suggesting
way-
though is that going forward, it seems like you're gonna max out until they reevaluate where you should be in your steps, and then you'll no longer be maxed out, you'll be getting those step increases
It would,
again.
I think,
If
Chairman?
there was a huge
I
increase,
think,
it's
right.
unlikely at all.
I think that scenario is so unlikely that I don't even think we should worry about it. That would,
Well, you say that,
that'll
but
be,
someone with
that would be
31 years
huge
experience
change
is
in
a
the
step
economy
7.
for that to happen.
it's gonna be gone in 2 years.
That would be
Yeah.
huge. I don't think that
just got
that's
one quick
applicable.
question. Yeah.
Go ahead.
If I get, the biggest,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. He did
yeah,
his hand up
yeah.
first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. You know, the concept of going to the external market, I think, is a good thing. You know, the risk you run, the devil's always in the details. And right now, we have more of a objective measurement. We have grades, and you get your 2%, your 3%, and it's objective. Going to this approach, it has more subjectivity into it, because it's only as good as the data you get, and it's only as good as the person reviewing the data and looking at the towns, and then looking at the job descriptions, and who does that every year? Because if you go into the outside market, I'm assuming for a third of our employees, who does that? Is that, do we hire a consultant every year to do that? Because we're going from an objective measurement to really a subjective measurement, and that's the risk, okay, for me.
That's something our board is capable of doing. Okay, the personnel board, future personnel boards, it's not that complicated if you take, a third each year. And, you contact the communities and you request the information, and as they were in this case, most of the communities were very cooperative.
But you just have to make sure that those communities mirror us. So you gotta, as an apple to an apple, and job descriptions may change, and operational responsibilities may change. So someone's gotta look into that as well. It's just not saying, calling up and say, okay, your highway surveyor gets this, our highway surveyor should get that. So, I mean, I just concerned with the subjectivity.
But again, that's why we're using operational criteria.
But someone's gonna do that.
I'm hearing operational criteria, but yet it seems like if you take somebody, whatever position, let's say they're a step 5 today at 50 grand. That's the top that we've said for that job we want to pay. When you move them over, you're saying, well, he may be a 6 or she may be a 7, so there'll be room to grow. If you haven't changed the job, what makes that job more valuable to the town?
Longevity.
And again, I'm stuck, because we face this all the time. You can be a
We
receptionist.
paid them for longevity in the past. Over the last 8 years I've been on the personnel board, we'll increase them on average 2%.
So it really isn't operational criteria.
In that particular
only,
case, you're
it's-
talking about a specific step 8 situation. No, it's
Well,
not.
you're talking about moving somebody over and you're saying, I'm going to expand their ability to increase their salary, not because the job has changed, not because the operational criteria has changed. It's just, you've been here long enough, we just want to keep raising you. And that just doesn't seem,
Well, we've done it in the past.
Is it right?
that doesn't hold water with me when you say
Well,
we
you
did
know what,
it.
Al, because this is not private industry. You're stepping outside the box, okay? We gotta treat Article 2 people the same as the union people,
Yes.
okay? And so that's what the Personnel Board does by recommending, and what we're doing by recommending these steps is to keep it competitive, as I said before, internally, but we've also checked and we found, the very interesting thing that we found out, okay, we didn't know because we hadn't done a study for like 13 years. And what we found out when we gathered the data was that Milford is competitive. We were pleasantly surprised to see that we were where we should be. And so we've developed a system to keep us there, okay? And that's all it is. I mean, you heard the numbers. The bottom line, I would think you'd be interested in the bottom line, and you heard what Zach said. It's not gonna cost the town barely anything, and no more. It's probably gonna be less, he said, than if you did just a straight 2%. So, you might not fully grasp how we got to where we got, but we got to the place where you should be happy we're at, because it's not gonna impact the town's budget.
See, you just said it. We want them the same as the union. If I'm a union guy and I see
I didn't
somebody
say-
going up 6%,
I didn't say-
I'm gonna want that piece too. When I go to negotiate my contract, I'm gonna say, well, wait a minute, you added all these steps.
They do. They have 6% increases between steps as well.
Now you're adding more steps, because if I was at step 5 at 50 grand, I'm locked in. Now you move me to step 6 or 7, it's gotta be higher, right? You're not gonna cut me, my pay, you're not gonna cut my pay off.
All right. I
I don't understand.
I think we've
We have to move on.
discussed this fairly well. And what Zach has pointed out is that this year, the incremental cost is as much as we would have given normally anyway. The question is not this year. The question is next year, the following year, and how the changes compound going forward. That's always been the issue with whether it's a union contract or a non-union contract for the town. And that's what affects the operational budget more than anything else, the compounded salary level. So where are we going forward, Zach?
The
Yep.
stats on that as well. So, and again, this is comparing to if we were going to use a 2% COLA increase in the existing plan for FY 17, 18, 19, so that's what it's comparing to. The above 2% in year one would be approximately $4,000 for salary compared to the existing plan. In year two, it would be $25,000 higher than if we were to stick with the existing plan at 2%. And in year three, it's $30,000 higher than a 2% increase in the
Slide path
existing
up
plan.
and upwards, huh?
Those are big numbers. It's big numbers because your ranges, your steps on salaries are 6%. So the numbers are gonna be big.
Comparing it to 0%, over 3 years, you're going up $90,000. So that's assuming we're not giving anybody any raises, and you're comparing it to that, right?
Current state.
That's what you wanted, the 0% comparison.
Right.
So the total percent over 3 years is 9%. So it's averaging a little over 3% per year.
Right.
Over
I don't-
our 2% plan.
No?
No.
Oh, over the
no,
0%.
Over
No, at
0%.
The comparison is at 0%, which doesn't make sense because he just said that year two, it's $30,000, in year three, and this is over the 2%. So that's significant numbers.
Well, I'm saying it's 90,894.
Yeah, but that's not what he's saying.
This is for all 3 years. He was saying 1 year.
No.
2 years.
He was saying 3 years, and what he said
He was
was
saying over the 2%.
over the 2%. It was 75,000 over the 2%.
The numbers don't lie. I mean, you can look at the spreadsheet. I can show you the 2% spreadsheet as well.
That was 60,000 over the 2%.
So by 2019, we'd be, under the new plan, we'd be paying 3% more than if we stuck with the old plan, assuming 2% increases every year. That's the bottom line. If we went with, assuming 0%, we would be up 10% more over 3 years. That's assuming 0%. We're assuming 2%, we're over 3% over the old plan.
You think this was easy, we really get up on town meeting floor.
Well, that's a point I was gonna make. I was gonna make that point. Procedurally,
Make the point.
procedurally, I mean, it's been confusing here. We've gone all over the board, trying to figure out if we're looking at numbers, percentages, levels, years, towns. What kind of a presentation do you have ready for town meeting? Because I cannot believe for an instant that anybody sitting in that town meeting hall will be able to grasp anything other than, this is what's in the warrant, so we're either gonna vote for it because everybody says it's okay or not, without knowing the details. I don't see, and they're gonna look to the finance committee saying, well, finance committee, what do they think? And right now, it appears that this board is not convinced that we have enough data or feel confident that that we can go forward based on how it's being presented to us. So I hope you have a clear objective when you're presenting this on the town meeting floor, that you're gonna tell them what it used to be, and this is what it's now gonna be, and this is the reason why, and then how the percentages change and affect the budget. Because if you don't have that, then I don't see how you can sell your plan to the town meeting. I just really can't see how you can do it.
I would agree.
It's really confusing right now. I mean, the presentation to the selectmen doesn't tell, in one spot it tells what it used to be, another spot it doesn't. It doesn't tell what the difference would be if you didn't do it. And then what happens, Mr. Chairman, if the town meeting votes down Article 2? what does it revert to? Because right now, you've got the new plan in the warrant.
That's right.
So what happens then? Do you have to present the old process with increases?
Salaries are gonna be frozen.
Is town council here? They could comment
We
on
have that taken care of in the event that.
How? You've already figured it out, but nobody knows what that increase is gonna be.
Right.
You're assuming 2%.
So that would have to be presented, right? As
That's what the amendment would be.
I mean, that's what the finance committee asked the department heads to increase their budget, 2%.
So if it fails, there will be an amendment presented by most
So-
likely one of the selectmen
Right.
at the
Town
proposed.
meeting. So none of the budget, which plan that we have, does the budget include?
Left.
The new salary plan or the old salary plan? The old plan at 2%.
2% COLA, that was voted by the personnel board.
Correct.
Okay, may I?
Okay.
At the town meeting, Zach, we vote Article 2. We vote the number. We vote the salary, correct?
Correct.
We don't vote the plan.
Right.
So there really is no reason that we need to go before the town meeting and explain the plan. However, next year, if these numbers, as Zach has put forward, if we agree with the numbers that Zach has mentioned, because whether they figured it out using a Ouija board or do whatever they're doing here, if they
The
did
article
that,
talks about the new process.
yeah, but we're not approving the new process. We're telling, we are approving the new process.
Aldo, with
Well, then
all due
I-
respect,
I
if
step back.
I'm reading Article 2,
That's what the
it's the
warrant says.
process,
That we are
And the
accepting.
number.
Right.
Okay.
so it's not like you're saying we're approving $100. If you
I
approve
know.
Article 2, you accept their proposal.
Try, Aldo,
new
but not
steps.
I like the
At least
Ouija
that's the way I
board.
read it.
All right.
The wording of Article 2 is exactly the same as it has been in prior years.
No, the charts.
Of the,
are-
no,
charts are
the
different.
actual article itself is exact wording. It's only the FinCom discussion where the subject comes up.
That's the discussion, right.
The discussion is brought up, but not in the article to be voted on. The wording is the same as prior years.
Thank you.
No, with all
We're
due
voting
respect,
to
I see
amend
the new
wage and
steps.
salary salary schedule and steps. It says it right in the article.
I'm talking about the text of the article.
But right under the text is the new
New
steps
positions.
and places.
You're voting the chart and it's.
You're
the
voting the
new
chart, Michael,
Mike.
you are.
Right.
Because the words don't work without the chart.
Here's what here's what I'd like to know. Zach. FY17, what's the total impact of this new system?
If this were to pass, it would be necessary to go back and adjust budgets for $4,000.
No, that's not true. That's 4,000 over 2%.
Correct.
I want the total number,
Okay.
0%.
It would be 28,449.
Okay, what is it next year?
46,398.
What is it the third year?
50,246.
Mark, how's that calculated?
That's 124,000 over 3 years, increase in the budget.
Yeah, but to me, Mr. Chairman, it isn't the numbers. I mean, if the
numbers.
positions warrant a certain salary, everyone needs to step up to the plate and fund it. To me, the issue is the process and the step changes and who receives COLA and who doesn't. And who's on step 5 and why do I now maybe go to step 7 if I have all the qualifications?
But-
Again, I think it needs more review, and I think more review is better. I think if you go to town meeting and it's present, I mean, we've been looking at it for 3 hours, and we don't understand it. So you want a 3-hour debate on town meeting floor? I guess that's a question for the sponsors of the article, I don't know. But to me, it's not the money, Mr. Chairman. I mean, if it's the proper thing to do, we all would step up to the plate and fund the required dollars.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, realistically, can we assume the town's gonna have a 0% for 3 years in a row?
No.
So why are those numbers so important?
Because those are the real numbers, okay?
Okay,
If we in fact say next year, because of the economy, we do 1%, those numbers are a little different, I agree with
and the
you.
unions do the same negotiations?
Unions do, no.
Same consideration for the budget and stuff?
Unions don't care about the budget.
Right.
Nope, they don't care. We have to fund it, or not. I mean, we don't have to fund the union contract the way you think we do. Let's assume, for argument's sake, that the teachers' union increases of 5%, with over 5, 5, and 5. And this committee and the finance director feel that the max we can sustain out of the operational budget is 2%. So we go back to the school department and say, you have 2%. They go, well, we got these salary increases of 5, and our answer is, and you have to take something out of your budget. And we've done that in prior years significantly. In good years, we'll go along typically with the salary increases of the contracts throughout the town and manage the operational budget that way. And the personnel board has in the past tried to keep the non-union personnel, the Article 2 people, somewhat in sync with the town-wide salaries. And you've done a good job. And this committee has fostered the application that we should try to be in sync with the union with benefits as well. And we've done that. We've increased vacation time, longevity issues, paid leaves, all of those things that your committee has brought forward to try to equalize the non-union Article 2 people with the rest of the town. And this committee supports that. In fact, we got to the point where we said, look, just bring it all at once, because voting on it every year incrementally is difficult. It's hard to understand. So now you come forward with a new salary structure and a new interpretation of job descriptions and a new presentation of levels of responsibility, I guess is the right answer, okay? And it all fits in your mind somehow. If I personally step back and look at it objectively and say, well, it's just another way to help the employees gain more usable income. And I'm okay with that, but I'm not okay with the fact that the incremental cost may be significantly higher than the town can afford going forward. I mean, everything is compounded, remember. Once you get to a step, you compound on top of that to the next step, both from a salary point of view and from an hourly point of view. So $124,000 over 3 years is a significant number, incremental to the budget. And that's what I'm looking at, not necessarily what is it over 2%. What if we decide not to do 2%?
It's 121
$124,000 in 3 years.
compared to the 300 million of budget.
The what?
The 300 million the town.
100 million.
No. We're only at
Over
90.
3 years, it's 300, but,
Yeah.
No, it's 90,000 over the 1 million that you're comparing it
but
to
candidly,
Right.
That's just for
And
salary.
I think that's the issue here.
for salary.
This committee is interested in understanding the salaried and hourly employees that are under your jurisdiction, in that we want it to be fair. It's not our job to do this study. It's your job. We gave you the money to do this study, and this is
Town
what you.
meeting did.
Right, we recommended the money. And you come back with this, and the concern here is it seems to be very confusing. Why does it seem to be confusing? I'm not sure. So, it's hard for this committee to see it objectively in that this is just changing the structure, giving people more money that they deserve because they have the qualifications that meet these things, and move forward. That's where I'm at. This committee doesn't seem to be there.
Well, I see your point too, Mr. Chairman. Instead of doing the cost of living percentage increases, you've given more steps to have a structured way of increasing salaries over a few years. So that makes sense.
That's right.
I think you need to present it as you're resetting. you're trying to reset how the structure is, in order to move forward, based on an analysis that you did with the consultant. But, so, because the numbers, like you said, Mr. Chairman, the numbers aren't a big deal, I don't think, this year. But it's just about that you can present it in a clear way. And to your point about industry, I've been in all kinds of proposal reviews with leadership where the people think they've got everything all set, and then it falls apart because no one can follow what they're doing. So just take a moment to put your presentation together and feel comfortable with how you're moving forward, because you may get questions out of the members, and I think you want our support. So that's kind of where I really am. It's a little difficult. I do like what Phil said about using subjective criteria versus, real hard data, because when you're going out to other towns, here's a question for you: do these other towns use Milford in their analysis? You're chasing the ice cream truck. Because if they're using Milford's numbers in their structure, then if we increase our number, their number increases, and you're just going around chasing the ice cream truck.
Just one last.
Most of
But
the.
they might all do it. Then you find out you've got a,
Most
collusion.
of the towns have requested
What do we,
All right, gentlemen,
yeah,
all right, we need to move forward. I need a motion to do something. We have a choice. We can vote favorably or unfavorably on this article. Nobody's gonna make a
If we
motion?
were to vote unfavorably,
Yes.
what would then happen to Article 2?
Still goes to town meeting.
Goes
If
to
town
town
meeting
meeting with
votes
an
on
unfavorable
unfavorable,
recommendation.
then we gotta rework all the budgets. Oh, no, we have the old budget, right? At
if this
2%.
passes, you have to rework all the budgets.
Yes, we have to rework the budgets.
So there will be an Article 2, one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I make one comment, just quick?
Go ahead.
Always quick.
We've already got an hour
You
on
know, this is a tough issue for you, it's a tough issue for us. We're trying not to micromanage. You've hired a strong board, you've hired an outside consultant. Typically, we kind of rely on that, because obviously, we're not in the detail. What I think the problem is for us, we're just having, we want to be able to understand it more clearly, so we don't, at least from my point of view, it's not the dollars, I'm trying not to micromanage, I'm trying to look at it from a big picture point of view, but there is that frustration level of not understanding it. So, it's unfortunate for both parties. Maybe we should have started this process 6 months ago, but there is this undercurrent of not understanding it here, which is making it difficult, so.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I move for an unfavorable.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make one quick comment. My whole thing is going back to the need. I still haven't heard anything that says the employees want this new system. And until I see something that says, a survey that says the employees want this system over the old system, you're giving me option A, more money, option B, less money, so.
With all due respect, Mike,
We can't. Yeah, we can't.
in industry, the employees never get a vote on when they change the salary structure or how they redo anything. So
They vote
I
with their
don't.
feet.
Huh?
They vote with their feet.
They vote.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. If they don't like the salary, they leave.
and
But
that's.
I'm asking, I'm not talking about the salary, I'm talking about the structure.
Same.
Structures management, usually don't have a call.
Would you accept an amendment which says it's an unfavorable unless they pass it over? If they pass it over, I'd rather not have an unfavorable.
One or the other.
We're not passing over.
Okay, so leave it.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just,
We spent 2 years on this, it's time the town meeting voted.
That's fine.
if this were, if we were to give it unfavorable, and if the unfavorable were to pass at the town meeting, we would have an Article 2.
Yes,
They could come back in the fall and redo it.
yes.
Okay. I just don't want to have Article 2 disappear and
No,
have to
no,
come
no,
back and.
Article 2
We
cannot.
have to,
We have
they have to
I
get
want
raises.
there to be money.
There's money.
Aldo, there's a baseline Article 2.
There's money.
They're
That's fine,
proposing
I'm
changes.
all set.
Okay.
Make the vote.
There's a motion on the floor to vote unfavorable on this article. All in favor of the unfavorable vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Everybody.
All against? None. So unfortunately, the Finance Committee votes unfavorable on this article. And I would make your, I mean, we voted unfavorably on stuff before and it passes town meeting, so. As Michael said, I would make your presentation clear and simple. Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry we took so long. Warren?
Oh,
you have a
my
minute?
Can we break for a few? Can we take 10, Mr. Chairman? 5, Mr. Chairman.
1 second.
Yeah.
You want to take a
Break.
quick break?
Yes, please.
Are we back? Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
All right, we're back. Moving right along. Next article is 39, which is Finance Director's article.
Asking Town Administrator Rick Galani to sit with me as a lot of them pertain to him,
You vote on 38.
his budgets.
You vote on 38.
38 and 39 we need.
Zach, we need 38 as well.
We did 38.
No, we didn't. It's not reported here.
That's stabilization?
No.
No, that's the closing out of articles.
Yeah, closing.
That was voted.
I thought we did.
We did that. You did.
We did?
Positive you did.
Pretty sure we did, yeah.
That was when we were in room
I made a
14.
mistake.
Yes.
All right, 39.
Correct.
All right, room
39
14.
is transfer between certain line items.
If you go on the Google Drive, I can give you the data again on 38, I don't mind, but I don't know if I have it with me, I should.
We have it because it's in the
Yeah, it's.
town meeting report.
Yeah, yep. So, for 39, for sticking with that right now, if you, in the, finance directors folder, you should see a subfolder called transfers. You open up the transfers, you'll see the individual requests that I sat with the departments to help fill them out. And you should also see an Excel summary sheet that summarizes all the individual requests.
On the bottom.
And when you're ready, I'll begin with the first one.
Go.
All right, so. First one is Selectmen, Department 122. This is for injured on duty, which refers to the police and fire. It's paying for their medical bills. It's Massachusetts state law that we have adopted, which allows us to do so. Also, keep in mind, I attached all the individual budgets to that summary. If you wanted to look at them, you can feel free to do so. But thus far, we started off with a budget of $80,460. We are currently over in that line item by $4,252. So we simply just did a trend analysis. We spoke with the chiefs. There's no indication that any of these numbers will drop. So we averaged it out over the next 2 months and came up with a figure of $25,000. That if this trend were to continue, that would be the additional money that we are seeking to handle the injured on duty account.
What's the account number?
122-5303.
You need a motion on each of the individual?
No.
No, you
No,
can
we
do
don't.
one whole one unless you have a question and pull it out.
Right. Continues that.
Okay.
We never have an issue with IOD, so.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. Yeah. All right, so we'll jump into elections. The next one.
Yep. General.
What we're doing here is seeking a transfer to cover salaries and wages. There were 2 elections this year. This is town clerk's account. The personnel board in the prior year, in FY15, had changed the way that we pay the election workers. So there was no real prior history to what we should anticipate payment to be. So it ended up coming in $1,500 short, based on the new structure, based on maybe extended hours or bringing in more staff to handle those 2 elections. She has it within her existing budget in the general expense side, So we're just proposing moving the expenses up into salaries to cover the existing deficit of 15, it's actually 1,400 and change.
And you know how we hate doing that, right?
You hate it the other way around.
We hate it both ways.
So the pay rate was changed for election workers,
Correct,
and it affected this year.
correct.
The new budget.
We took into consideration.
Okay, so we
Yep.
have the new pay rate for
Correct.
next year.
I have that listed as one of the line items as additional information. We based it off, now we do have historical data of what to anticipate, so the FY '17 budget should be sufficient.
So it wasn't increase in hours or anything, it was
It
just
could have
the
been
pay
that
rate.
as well. I mean, it depends on how long it takes to complete an election, so it's not one of those, it's, hey, it's 40 hours and it's 10 people, and maybe more
And
or
you're,
less.
I
but
guess my real question is, are we safe for 17?
Yes, we are.
18?
In my opinion, we are safe for 17.
Okay.
All right.
Next one is Department 192, Public Building and Property. This one is seeking a transfer into the repair and maintenance line item. There's quite a few issues that need to be taken care of there, so you may want to reopen that one up as I go along. If everybody recalls, the buildings and ground account, which is, I refer to as 192-5400, is restricted by town meeting as a separate line item. FinCom years ago had put restrictions on repair and maintenance to make sure that we're paying
We did that.
repair and maintenance. So in this particular,
that.
in this particular case, we're paying more, it ended up, we need more money in our repair and maintenance accounts. I would like to point out that in that particular account, the repair and maintenance, the total was 153,900. Recurring costs on an annual basis every single year, just for inspections of elevators, for maintenance plans that just are set in stone, are approximately $116,000 of that amount. So basically, we got $35,000 for any repairs that come up on all town buildings and property.
Well, we went over it this year.
You know, we went over it this year, and there's still things that we need to do for the rest of
So
the year.
where is the money coming from?
Within the general expense, it's just not a restricted line. It's in the exact same department.
No, I understand.
Extra money.
Yeah.
Where did we budget? I mean.
You want to know specifically
No,
where
no,
I would be
Zach,
taking it from?
25 grand we budgeted for something.
Yup.
That we're not gonna do because we need it in maintenance.
Fuel oil.
Fuel.
Okay, that's, I just wanna know,
We are gonna adjust going forward.
We did adjust
With
going
that
forward.
account in the next budget, so
We
you
did.
see that.
so we didn't buy $25,000 worth of oil because the price was lower and we got the extra money?
No, we did not have to really touch that account to
Yeah.
a great extent. So in my opinion, that account was over budgeted.
It was,
Line item
and
was
if you
over
recall, when we did our general government presentation, we reduced that now.
We
Oh,
backed
that
it, we backed it
significantly.
So
down.
we over budgeted this year, that's why we got the extra money for maintenance.
And if-
Next year,
correct.
we're taking the over budget out.
That is
You got it,
wonderful. That
you
is
got it,
correct.
you got it. Exactly.
Okay. Hydrant, I thought, wait a minute.
This is Mark's favorite account, so, I mean, if I may, I have a good
Go ahead.
good
There is a good
explanation.
explanation.
No, there isn't.
Wow,
So,
for most people.
so early on, Rick and I, what's his name, Conjure?
I spoke with Dave Condrey,
Dave Condrey,
and
yeah.
we tried to get what it projected would be for the year. And he gave us a number, and I believe the difference would be that they added, and how many
Yeah, the
hydrants.
number was accurate, however, periodically they come back and they look to see new developments that we have, new roadways and whatnot. And if there's additional hydrants they service, they take a number, multiply it, and adjust us. So this year, when they happened to do that, there was 17 additional hydrants. So it came up with a number that we would end up being $2,200 short at the end of the year. So unforeseen, no, probably not. Maybe we should have increased the budget for such things, but at the time, we were given what was supposed to be a solid number, and
We have no way of knowing that new developments go in and new roads go in and new hydrants go. We have no way to know that.
yeah.
And making it up on the back end is fine. You know my problem with the hydrants. So,
Yes.
That's not germane to this.
Yeah.
I just think that the town ought to understand that we pay $808,152.84 to rent those hydrants from the water
A
company.
lot of money. Yes. It's a,
So everybody knows, it's almost $1 million.
if I were to put the budgets in order of largest to smallest, that's up there.
Right at the
It's
top.
up there with,
All right, carry on, sir.
so,
Thanks
Rick
for the
has some
editorial
money in general government, so we could square up on that one.
All right.
These next two go hand in hand. This is the town engineer. As we know, our town engineer has departed with the town, and there is going to be a need to retain consultant services right now, which Rick has already done so with Beals and Thomas.
Yes, we have contracted with them on an as-needed basis.
So, two things have occurred here. One, I took the remaining now unencumbered salary from the town engineer departure and brought that down into general expenses, where I will now have to create a new account called consultant. We have not had it before. Not a big deal. I can just simply do that within the general expenses, and we will bring down that remaining salary. That just makes sense that we would start with that first. Now, this next one, this is kind of a what-if situation. So we want to make sure that if anything significant were to come up, we have Godfrey Brook going on that needs to have a town engineer look at that. We have significant projects happening. The youth center's finalizing. We have a need with the
We still have
the two
businesses
boards,
coming before the planning board,
Planning board,
conservation
think of it,
commission.
conservation.
Site plan reviews might need to be done.
But it's only if it happens in the next 6 weeks.
Correct.
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 So we don't use this, we don't touch it. It
I was gonna
falls
say,
just like it would
It
have,
falls right out.
Yeah, falls to the bottom.
like
How about for
it would have in
July?
the other.
What have we done? Because we won't have a new person. We won't have Bonnie
Well,
Radu
we
in
actually
July.
are advertising right now. It closes May 20th. Applications are closed. We would hope that we're going to, in June, get this before the Board of Selectmen to have a new town engineer appointed. The goal is July 1st, hopefully.
Oh, okay.
All right, good.
Or shortly
What-
thereafter.
And if it takes,
What I will also do, because a lot of this review would be for projects that have already been happening, it will give me the ability to encumber some of these funds and move them forward for that exact reason.
so you'll have a little bit tucked away in case
Yes.
July 1st, it's not perfect, it's July 20th.
Correct.
Okay.
And if we do not touch that, it cannot be used for anything else. I won't allow it, and it'll
Cool.
drop down.
Zach, that's fine. I just want to make sure
Yep.
we're covered for, I know it's going to work perfect. You're going to get the perfect candidate on the perfect day.
Let's hope so.
But just in case it rains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's hope so. The next, so that was two hand in hand. The next one is youth services. This is just a budgeting error. The director is now eligible for longevity. Again, you heard the personnel board talk about, they just granted longevity a couple of years ago, so he was now eligible. We didn't realize it. We gave him his longevity. This is just to take care of the longevity piece of $350. Rick has it available in general government in his overtime budget. And finally, the most important one, my budget. So this year, well, for a number of years, I have had outsourcing record retentions to a company called Archive America, which was probably the most terrible service that I've ever had. But I was stuck in contract with them, and I had 68 banker boxes, could basically fill this room. There's nowhere else to put them, so I was stuck with them. And now the necessary time has passed, the necessary 7 years has passed, where I can now destroy all of the records. And I worked with Jerry Moody, and we settled with the company, and it cost $700 to destroy all the records, which it was costing me $1,100 a year for them to store the records. So it was kind of a no-brainer to jump in and do that, but it depleted my budget. And I do have some expenses coming up that I would like to use, so this is just to refill that.
All right,
Zach,
so-
I must have, sorry, Mark, but I must have missed that line. What account is it coming from?
The last one I just talked about?
Yeah, it's not on the report. I must,
192, 5,300.
192 for how much?
700.
$700 going to 135.
Yeah, to that point, Al, the ones that went out did not have that chart in it.
No.
Oh,
So,
they didn't have the two 38 and 39s?
it had 38, it didn't have 39.
Okay, so we're gonna have to do something, Paulie.
Or I'm gonna have to read the whole thing and tell me.
No, no, what I would propose is that we do the single page,
Yeah, we could do that.
because
Oh,
there's a mistake on 38, that I did look it up, you were right, we did vote favorable.
Yep,
And the chart, if it didn't go out, I'll add the last line.
okay. Paul and I
This
can
went out.
put
I got this in the mail.
paper on the chairs. We've done that in the past. We can take care of that.
I'm gonna bet you that some went out with it and some didn't.
That was Paul's
I
fault.
think the first 125
Didn't,
didn't.
yeah,
Oh, so it was your fault.
no,
No,
mine.
it was, the network
Your
was
fault.
not able to get the updated version that Al had sent. And we were having problems logging in, and it went to my town of Milford account, which did not allow me to access it. And then halfway through the morning, it came on, but having to make 275 copies of a 28-page report requires you start early if it's gonna get out in the afternoon.
All right, so there are two issues here to vote on. One issue is we vote this whole package as transfers, and this board knows that if there are other transfers required after town meeting, we have the authority and with the selectmen to approve those transfers up to 5% of the budget, I think it is.
Correct. Or 15,000, the
Yeah.
higher of.
Yeah, and so we can do that till the end of June.
The last 2 months and first 2 weeks of the following
right.
fiscal year.
And the second thing here is that we all know that if a department head goes over budget, it's against the law, Mass General Law, so they could be imprisoned for 1 year and a fine of $10,000. So my recommendation is, we don't like the finance director, we just don't approve that.
Currently not over.
I need a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Motion favorable, it should be.
Yes.
Bobby, did you second it? Who did?
Jeff.
Jeff Nero?
All right, we have, the last article we have to approve is Article 4, which is the total budget. And we can't do that until we talk about 155's budget, which was the only budget that we didn't accept. So, here we are, 155, and then we can vote on that. So, before we vote on that or discuss that, I'd like to congratulate Andy for he just got appointed as the manager of IT for the town site.
Congratulations.
And my condolences, because it's not going to be easy.
It will.
But you're doing a great job, actually. Look at, it actually works. Even he can do it.
Yeah, what is he gonna complain about? Everything you promised to do, you keep doing.
Right.
You're not gonna give Mark anything to
I
complain
also
about.
got this thing started, almost in place for you to do the presentations.
I want that next, and then we
Yes.
can go. Okay, Article 150, budget 155.
Just have a quick question for Paul. Did you put that on?
No.
It should be under budgets.
I sent it to him.
If
this
it's
afternoon.
current, there is a 155 on here.
Yeah, there should be a couple of them.
Okay,
FY17 submitted budgets. I think so.
yep, let's
I
find
got a
it.
final number of 523,990.
Is that right?
Yep.
There are actually two different
What is it
ones.
under?
155. Under,
Going based on.
Got it. Got it.
Under what?
it's under FY17,
Got it.
budget,
Just find.
155.
Mike, did you say 523,990?
523,990.
Yep, that's it. Yep. That's the school and the town. And I think
Right.
you already approved the school.
We approved the school budget and
At
the
290.
school IT budget, which went up $3,000 from last year. If you recall, we split this
23,990.
budget item into two separate budgets, 155 and 155B. 155A is the town budget, and 155B is the school budget.
Correct.
At this point, we need to vote on the total 155 budget to be utilized by both the town and the school. We've already voted for the school budget, so their increase in their number here is 180,000 plus a few, okay? As you go down the list, it's broken into two categories: hardware, town, school; renewal license, or maintenance, town, school; consulting, town, school; supplies, town, school; and unclassified miscellaneous, town,
You
school.
could look at the town, so, as a single budget if you'd like. Did you put that one on there
I have
too?
it.
I just put the one.
No, you
Oh,
have
you
it.
did?
No,
No, I think it's just the one.
I don't understand that. This, I have two
Yeah, one
budgets
is
here.
a different version of it, of the same one, but I didn't put three of them because we're confused enough.
Oh, I have
Version
two of
one.
them here.
No, I know, just the first, it's,
So,
It's version 1?
Zach, walk us back. 155A is how much?
155A representing the town is 233,990.
And 155B representing the school,
Representing the school is 290,000.
90 even?
290 even. Grand total, 523,990.
990.
Okay, so why did the town side go up 50,000 bucks?
Now we have an IT manager, and we will also be hiring a technician.
So the salary and wage line of 132K plus or minus is for both positions?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
That shouldn't have gone up, because we had
We
a
had two of them in
position.
there.
Well, they were also budgeted both at top step. He came in at 1, that's hence version 1 and version 2. So we could, if we wanted to, adjust now for what reality happened, which would be a reduced salary budget. That's why there's version 1 and version 2. At the time, we didn't know what was going to
Did you
happen.
increase the capital,
Yes, we did.
so that's up to the 75 that the subcommittee recommended?
It's, yes, well, the town hardware is now at 60,000. License renewal is at 5,000.
Zach, you don't have to go through
Consultant-
details, but you got
Yes,
the
we
75.
brought it to where we need to go, yes.
Then, yeah, I think if you know the real numbers. But how do you know the real numbers if you haven't hired a second person?
Oh, I know the real number on him, which is,
Right.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
for the benefit of the rest of this committee and people in the audience, you may or may not be aware that we do have a IT subcommittee that was established a couple of years ago because of all of the problems and concerns throughout the town and the schools pertaining to the deployment of IT technologies, et cetera. And we have a chairman of that subcommittee who is Chris Moran, and I don't know if, I can speak for myself, being on the committee, I have never seen this proposal prior to tonight. Now, maybe Chris has, and I know Al is on that committee. Have you two reviewed it?
And this was discussed at the last meeting, because there was, as you had agreed, there was strong reservations about not requiring a director-level person. That, you know, our group had always recommended it, Andy, and glad that it worked.
Yeah.
Become a working manager. So that came through, and then the question came out, how does he do that and accomplish, I think it was 4 bullets, I can't remember 'em. One was software, optimizing software renewals. One was optimizing hardware,
Yep.
because we have, you know, a plethora of printers.
yes,
That cost us a lot of money.
Correct.
The third was, I did not know till that meeting that we really don't have any backup on our network. The redundancy was not there. So that was the third point, and there was another one, and I'd have to go back to my notes. But what the group that night said is we could support an extra hire if, when you approve or hire the new manager, we get the 4 or 5 critical bullets and get a report saying, how are we doing? Because that would save us money,
correct.
or at least not cost us incremental.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, that meeting was not purported to be an IT subcommittee meeting of the Finance Committee. It was
You were invited.
I was invited to that meeting, but I was, and I do remember it. And I said I couldn't make it. But my understanding was it was to hear the recommendations of the hiring committee, not an IT subcommittee meeting of this board, Zach.
You're 100% right. The IT subcommittee has not formally met after that meeting or had a formal vote. You're right, Bobby.
Thank you. Because my recollection is when I looked at the town department as a whole in the past, the work volume was not there to support two individuals. Now, that may have changed. I think that this committee should be afforded the opportunity, pardon me, to review the impact of this. Have alternatives been studied? Are these one-time functions that go away after they're be done? Should we hire a third party to come in and do it? I don't know. I know that we have been very, very diligent and have worked very well with Zach and his department in this regard, but I'm a little disturbed that this is being dropped in our lap at the 11th hour without the ability to really dig into the work content and the outline or the job functions of these two individuals. So, you know, at this point, I'm all in favor of the network director, but I'm just opposed to the salaries for the second individual at this juncture, because we haven't had the chance to review it. And I will tell you, when I was asked to serve on that subcommittee, I went into it 110%. I took time off from work to visit with your organization, people at Town Hall, people at the Senior Center, people at the Highway Department, people at the School Department. So I spent a lot of time, and I want to do it right. And I just feel uncomfortable with having it.
That's certainly understandable. I very much had the same reservations, which is why I was trying to bring everybody together. Al was there, Mark was there. It's unfortunate you weren't able to make it. Chris was there.
Chris has got some
Chairman
other-
Buckley was there, and
But Zach, is it your intention to hire the second person before you put the plan together for Andy, the manager?
That was the other point. We've been asking for a plan for the schools and the town for,
Because certainly,
Yes.
I thought we walked away saying, for us to support it, not that it matters, you
Yeah.
can do it if town meeting approves it, but to work together that we would have a plan for the manager slot, because we know the workload keeps a worker bee almost busy, right? So now to add a second person, I would hope that we would get the plan first, and then you go ahead and say, here's the plan, we work together, we agree, then you hire the person
yeah.
to fill the plan. So I'm where Bobby is, I would hope we get a
and is my
plan.
recollection correct that we said at the time, when we looked at the volume of work, that we could not substantiate a second individual until we started to get into the fire and police departments conversion. Is that
What-
correct?
Yes, because what happened was we identified, we had a separate contract with the library. We had separate support for highway. We had separate support for the senior center. We had almost support for the one computer in Memorial Hall. We had the youth center coming on, and all these rogues, I won't say rogue, but independent servers. Andy went off and consolidated all those, which was great, and virtualized them. I guess what we're asking is, will we have a chance to work with you on the plan before you hire the worker
Definitely,
bee?
Absolutely.
definitely. What came out, again, he was just appointed this past Monday.
understood.
So following
Had
that,
2 days.
excuse me, so following that, it was
And
a.
it still doesn't work now.
if I may. Following that, there was a directive by the selectmen to come back with a process on how we want to propose hiring an individual. It would be my recommendation that we allow Andy now in his new capacity to get his feet wet, to deal with our consultants, to really fall into the position prior to just jumping in and hiring somebody.
Thank you.
So I will absolutely award the opportunity for us to have that discussion prior
Zach,
to.
I think that's what we walked away from that meeting expecting, is
Yes.
that we won't go ready, aim, we won't go ready, fire, aim. that we're gonna aim before we fire, and that you would come back, we'll work with you. Not that we have approval, but the subcommittee will have input.
Would you entertain the idea of taking that salary out of that line item at this point in time? And if by the fall, we've crossed those bases, we add it back in?
Bobby, if it was me, I'd take the man on his word that he won't fill it, and then we don't have to do anything.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is, what if we look at this and say, hey, look, this is just a one-time deal? We can bring a consultant in for 100 hours and complete it, and then let that person go, rather than put a full-time individual on the payroll ad infinitum.
So if that's the case, and this was in
Works
the
both
budget, it would
ways.
drop to the bottom line.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be spent.
What I would hope, Bobby, is that if we're working together and we both come to the agreement that we can do it with outsourcing, we can do it some other way, that we wouldn't hire the person unless that person is needed. And if we don't hire the person, the money just drops to free cash.
Right.
But it all, yeah, I'll take you on your word, because you haven't messed up yet when you've promised us stuff.
Right.
You've come through, that you won't go ahead and tomorrow, ready, fire, aim.
Not
You know,
my
go-
proposal, correct, so, yeah. thank
I
you.
haven't seen him do that yet.
Right, so I'm,
I need a motion.
I'm good.
motion to accept.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Who seconded it?
Bobby.
Bobby?
All right,
For the benefit of the committee, we did provide, not the full plan as you want to see it, but there is data that backs up what we do have proposed in the general expenses. It's in the IT subcommittee folder, and it gives a 3-year, as you guys will call it, spending list plan, but plans cost money, and that's what they are.
It's a broken down
And
list.
now that he is in his position, we will get a solid written plan together.
It's in here?
Yes, it is.
Under what, please?
I- Sorry?
6-page PDF.
Yes, it is. You
Yes.
got it. Yep.
It's in the ITA subcommittee.
IT subcommittee. Yep. And we got some big plans moving forward, so,
We know it's gonna cost money, we know it is.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why that night we recommended they increase the hardware, because we felt the new, now Andy, but the new manager, his
Yeah.
hands were tied with the budget.
Exactly.
Give him all the goals and say, here's 32 cents.
Yep.
Go implement it. So 75 grand felt good.
So set a date, we're there.
what was the subfolder?
IT sub,
IC subcommittee.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I got it.
Information technology, man.
Ah,
Idea budget.
Another country heard from.
oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
thank you very much.
Set a date, we're there.
All right, I mean, they have to do that, I think it's fine. All right, team. That was the last individual budget we had to deal with and accept. So, on, if you look on, Finance Committee, where did I put it? FY17. Not there. Where did I put that? Yeah. You go to town meeting reports. And, you pull up FY17, what did I call it? FY17 final. Town meeting reports. Finance Committee, town meeting reports. It shows the new balance sheet.
Yeah,
The budget as submitted is $95,364,863. So at this point in time, I need a motion to accept the budget.
So move.
Who?
Me.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chuck.
Chucky.
Any discussion? I will start the discussion. The balance sheet that you see has been brought up to date with the cherry sheet, the House Ways and Means cherry sheet number, and all of the other departments listed. Please note that debt service number this year is way over the 3.5 million that we keep in the general budget. And that'll be covered at town meeting with transfers from stabilization and free cash. If you look down at the lower right-hand side, the items that'll be discussed in the October timeframe, stabilization will be $2 million withdraw because, about $2 million, we're not exactly sure of the number. About a $2 million withdrawal to cover the first payment on the school. Overlay account's the overlay account, that's magic. The assessment account is 1.373,382. 1.168 is school choice. We talked about that ad nauseum, right? And we expect the school committee to start doing some projects to reduce that number and increase the number of students that stay in town. We've increased capital projects from $1 million to $1.5 million. It was felt that we've gone over those numbers successfully over the last couple of years with free cash, so it's like the snow and ice budget, you know, you might as well increase it and see where that goes. And we're proposing a levy adjustment of 1.8 million. So the total expenditure, all things, if everything falls into place, is 102,720,479. Revenue, 102,822,508, and that's with a transfer of 800,000 from stabilization account, which leaves us with a surplus of $102,029. It's a tight budget this year. Going into October, we'll see some better numbers, but I think we've done a heck of a job. You know what changes, new growth can change. There's a couple of other items that can change on here, it fluctuates, but for the most part, I think this is a pretty solid budget.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a question?
Yes, sir.
The levy adjustment last year, what was it, 2.8?
2.8.
2.8, so, okay, so that went down $1 million.
That was artificial, as we know.
No, that went up 2.8. This year, it's 1.8. We've
1.8.
gone down back to where we should have been.
Yeah.
It was
We
artificially
had,
high last
if you
year.
remember, 1.8 plus $1 million of the one-time insurance, so it's really the same.
Okay.
We just don't have, Zach, am I right? It was 1.8 last year, we got an extra surplus, or an extra surprise, premium holiday, so it went up to 2.8 from the 1.8.
Yeah, no,
This
I'm-
year, no premium holiday, we're back to 1.8,
Yeah, I'm
which
with
is
you.
fantastic.
Right, I
That's
mean,
fine.
my druthers was 1 million,
Yeah,
okay?
mine as well, but, okay.
Right, I mean, I think that's a reasonable number to sustain, and, you know, I'm not sure that 1.8 is not sustainable. And I think with the conservative numbers that we project, it's a good number to throw there, and we'll see where it goes in October.
Yeah, right, okay.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Oh, God.
All right, let me finish, this is not up, I don't think. When we go to town meeting in a couple of weeks, the funding sources for the items on town meeting warrant will come out of free cash. All of it will come out of free cash except the sewer department, and that'll come from the sewer department stabilization account. So we'll be spending $1,356,755 at town meeting if everything passes. You have, this is Article 22, we have to go back, it's being passed over. So that's a significant amount of money. The bus transportation number of 250,000 was reduced by 75K, so it's 175K at this point in time. And that's what they'll go to town meeting with for that article, 175,000.
Yeah, okay,
And I think that's still negotiable after the fact, so.
yeah, it is.
How is that possible? We got the grant already?
They took the Chenal grant off of here,
We
75,000.
got the Chenal grant?
It's coming.
No, it's been approved.
It's
Oh,
been
okay.
approved, yeah.
I just wanna make sure, because if it doesn't happen.
Right. So that's how town meeting will go. The last item I want to talk about, I really don't want to talk about it, is where we are at the stabilization account. We're gonna take $800K out, at least $800,000 out of the stabilization account to cover the overage this year of the 3.5 million capital, with 2 million coming out of free cash. So the stabilization account looks extremely well. I mean, our original projections when we did the school was 5% borrowing costs, and we would be pulling money out of stabilization for about 10 years.
And it would dip pretty low.
Well, it got down to about 9 million, okay? And that was pretty scary, but now the numbers are a little bit different. With the 2.3% loan or bond that we just got, and if we do those numbers again through the stabilization account, right now the stabilization account sits at $16,159,110. So over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years after this year, through 2023, we will draw the stabilization account down. Now remember, we put 500K minimum into there every year, so it's an offset. We will draw the stabilization down to $17,489,000, which is more than we have now.
That's crazy math there, Mr. Chairman.
That's awesome math, the way I see it. I mean, and we have to give the accolades to the finance director and the treasurer for coming up with a significant bond number, and allowing us to deal with the stabilization account, as we said we would do, withdraw money, but we now don't have to withdraw as much, which I think is great. So after a couple, 3 or 4 years, that may open up some borrowing capacity.
I think the caveat you want to put on there is, 12 years ago, we said there's a new school coming,
Yep.
and Woodland came, and we didn't have to do any of those 4-letter words, the blasphemy of,
Right.
overrides and debt exclusion, so no profanity. I think we have to start thinking, there's a school coming. In about 10 years or so, we're gonna have something coming at us, and I believe it'll be the high school. So my hat's off to Zach for setting us up. When people say 17 million, oh my God, what a huge number. There's a school coming, and if we want to enjoy the same benefit as Woodland, when Aldo takes on the next school project,
You should note that we're not building a new high
You're
school.
talking
No,
about rehabbing
we're
the existing.
renovating.
but
a high
even
school.
rehabbing, if you look at local high schools when they built new, it was over 100 million.
Right.
So Aldo, half of
Franklin
that.
was 105 million.
Right,
That's my
so
point.
I mean, I think that we're in very good shape. I appreciate the fact that this committee understands the long term and handles it very well. I mean, it's great sitting here saying that we have that kind of money in the stabilization account and draw it down over the next 8 years and have more than we started with. I mean, I think that's awesome, and that's reflected, by the way, in the Moody's report that I put up on, how do I get out of this? I forgot. On the town report. No, I got it. And Moody's had the most incredible statements about how good this town is financially, and we maintained a AA2 rating. And one of the things they talked about was the stabilization account, and I forwarded that to all of you guys, so it was very good. And I think we're doing well.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, yes, sir?
Just a comment. Yeah, I think we've done very well. Congratulations to all. But I want to make a point. I mean, the whole stabilization account was actually started some 20-plus years ago
Right.
by predecessor finance committees who intentionally overfunded their budget
Right.
to create this free cash that would drop into stabilization over the years. So that, it was really a terrific idea way back when, and it served us well. So,
Right, exactly right.
Am I the chairman?
We, both of us were there at the time.
yeah.
I think I was the chairman.
And a humble chairman you are.
Would you like us to name the stabilization account after you, Bob?
No, I'm still looking for that ice cream truck, Mike.
All right, team. Next item.
With all due respect, we have a motion?
Well, yeah, we have to
seconded
vote for
on
the
floor?
budget, right? All in favor of the 90-something million dollar budget?
Yeah.
All against? We should note that being over $100 million expenditures over the next 12 months, we're a big company. And we're acting like a big company, and it's very good that we got to that point, because we weren't years ago. And Zach and his team have done a great job in helping us get there. All right, I have just one item, Article 22, that we voted unfavorable on, which was the bathroom at the senior center will be passed over. They will take the money out of their general fund budget, and general government budget, and do it. All right, any new business? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I move that we reconsider Article 23, the bus transportation article.
The reconsideration can only be asked for by the positive voters on an article.
Majority vote.
Majority voters, you're right. And it has to be seconded by a majority voter.
I'll second it to get conversation.
Were you a majority voter? I don't
Yes.
have the list, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I voted favorable,
I
as
voted
did Phil.
favorable as well,
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman. Yep.
So what, I mean, I don't know what you're going to discuss it under reconsideration, but I just want to recall what we talked about the last time we talked about Article 23. This is an article that has an expenditure of $175,000. We should discuss that article in that vein. If there are, and I saw the proposal by the citizens from Milford, I know there are other options available, or might be available. That's not our job. Our job is to see if this number fits into the budget, and we vet it enough that we're comfortable that it's beneficial to the town. That's the only discussion we can have. With that in mind, all in favor of reconsideration?
Five, I count.
One,
Chuck, are you yay?
3, 4.
6.
Are you
No,
for
5.
reconsideration?
1, 2.
No, Chuck's got his
3,
finger
4.
up.
Oh, 5, 6 in favor.
Okay, wait a minute, guys.
7 in favor.
Do it again, come on.
Do it again, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7.
7.
7 in favor. All opposed?
I'm gonna say no again.
2 opposed.
2, okay.
All right. Your floor.
I move an unfavorable recommendation, Mr. Chairman. I move that we vote unfavorably on, we've discussed this last time, and my opinion was.
Have the floor. Oh, go ahead, let him, no.
Oh, I'm sorry, Phil.
Right, he made the motion. Let him talk first.
Yeah, I mean, at last meeting, I was very skeptical about, ridership. And, I'm still concerned, in terms of doing something for the community, I think we all want to do that. We just went over our balance sheet, our stabilization fund. We have done a good job. We are in good shape. But that doesn't mean that we have to think about what we spend. And my issue is, it just seems a bit rushed. I don't see us generating the kind of volume to warrant this. I know there are other proposals out there. I'm concerned about things like traffic and safety and security. I'm concerned about people walking, from their residence to a bus stop. I'm concerned about bus stops in the middle of winter and people waiting out there and dimly lit. I'm just concerned about a lot of things. And, it's all about data. It's all about getting good information. Now, at the last meeting, I asked what other towns were doing, and I think Marlboro was something like 50,000 riders, and Natick and Framingham. But I'd like to know, what kind of riders are they? Are they point to point? Are they riders going from a municipal parking lot to a connection on Route 9? I don't have answers to those kind of questions. I've had a lot of people come up to me since the last meeting and say, we don't really see it happening. And again, I think the sense at our last meeting was that people weren't really against it, but really wanted to kind of evaluate it and pass it over and look at it in the fall once we've had some data. I mean, you know, I don't see Milford as this big urban community. It's not Boston, it's not Worcester. You're not, you know, people aren't going from one end of Milford to the other, at least to the extent of some urban center. So I just have reservations as to ridership and all the things that go along with that, and I would ask this board to simply, I just want to open up the discussion. I didn't feel as though, you know, I left the last meeting, and I said, you know, I don't know if we talked about it enough, and I wanted to at least get it on the table again, so.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Couple things. Selectmen have proposed Transportation Advisory Committee. Great idea. I think the committee should be in place before we vote on any kind of transportation, because to your point, I don't think all the options have been vetted. Not only that, I don't think we know all the expenses that are tied with it. You know, I've had conversations with Scott, and he's here, and can verify. There's a lot, you know, the report says very minimal impact to the highway department. That's not the same information I get from Scott, that there's significant impact, up to and including another employee. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Why?
Just the amount of time to keep the bus stops clear. You know, right now, Scott's department does a great job, and they clear all the school bus stops. These bus stops that would be running during the day would have to be cleared, or if, say, the bus didn't run for some reason that day, and Scott had to put additional personnel on at night, you know, he has a point here. The other issue is they leave at 10, return at 3 to clean the bus stops, the school bus stops. If they extend that, they might not even go home, so it's an additional cost to keep those stops even clear. We don't even have that, we don't have any idea what that number is, and Scott's working to get that number, a dollar amount to that. But if it's an employee we're talking about, what's the average employee, 80, 100, I don't know.
About 40, 50, but.
40, 50,
yeah.
okay, loaded.
Assume close to 100 with benefits
with
and
benefits.
everything.
But that'd be that would be the cost to the town, right?
That's too much.
So, to me, I'm not ready to move on this.
I did not, that's never been discussed that in any meetings that I've been at or any open forum, so that's a good point to bring up.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Michael?
One thing on point of order, on a motion to reconsider, that's normally handled only on the same day that the original motion was passed.
Typically,
And we are now going outside of rule of order by doing this.
correct.
Secondly, this is a one-year pilot program, and it wasn't dreamed up last month. The number of people have worked on this for several years. They've been working with the Board of Selectmen, eyes open, heads up. I believe there have been some periodic conversations with the chairman. It is not being done blindly. There is a major segment of the town of Milford, because we're a blue-collar community, and there's a major segment of this town that needs this service, no more or less than the public service we provide by having a school system. We are offering to build up our ability to motivate, to be able to get people to go to work, to get to jobs, to do other items, and the ability to move around in our town. This is a one-year pilot program. We're not committing to this forever. It's a pilot, and from what I've seen, the economics are working out very well, especially with the Chana grant and eventual potential state grant, which Representative Fernandez is working on, and this is unique only to this Article 23. Other alternatives are not going to be seeing a Chana grant, I can tell you that. This is a one-year pilot, and I really recommend that you work with the town, with the Board of Selectmen, who is unanimously in support of this, to work on it for 1 year, to work through the bugs, all of the yeah buts, and at the end of 1 year, after I believe there's gonna be monthly reporting, if not quarterly, or at least quarterly, to report on what's working, what's not working, what changes are they making, or is this a total failure, or is it working greatly? So I'm just recommending that you do work with the town and with the selectmen for 1 year on this pilot program.
Point
of
thanks,
order.
Mike. Yes, sir.
Michael, with all due respect, the speculation that any other alternative would not be funded, I would say is not relevant to this
Okay.
conversation.
Noted?
It is legit, since at the last presentation, this is my opinion on the rules, that since the last presentation said there were no other alternatives, you saying there are other alternatives is legit, but commenting on the validity of other alternatives should not come into this vote. You agree?
Well, except with
Did I
respect to
say
the
there were
grant.
alternatives?
Except with respect to the grant. The grant is specific for this, right?
Right.
We don't know that there's another alternative that has a grant.
But we don't know that there isn't. That's my point, Mike.
At
We
this
should.
moment, we know that there isn't anything in front of us
Right.
that has a grant. Is that a true statement?
And yes, and that's been reflected in the Article 23 number.
Right.
Right. All right.
Jim.
One second. I've had a number of discussions with Harold, who spearheaded this. And one of the things I said to him is, when we talked about a one-year agreement, I said, what are the metrics that measure this 1 year as successful or not successful? I mean, he said that they expect 29 to 30,000 riders on an annual basis. I said, so what's good? What if we get 10,000? Is that the cutoff number? What if we get 15,000? I mean, where does the metric start to say this is not successful? Because we can get 1,000 riders and those people will depend on that bus, and it won't be economical from a cost per person by the town. And that's what we try to deal with as part of our services that we supply the town. I mean, like trash pickup and leaf pickup and everything. It's cost per person in the town. So I don't know where the metrics fall on this, and that's something that I thought would be clear coming out of the discussions, but not. Bobby?
I was just
Bobby
gonna
first.
ask about those metrics. Were those metrics based on an hour and 45-minute route?
There's no metrics. That's the
Oh,
problem.
there are none, okay.
Yeah, there were none.
There's
And
no
that's what
route.
There's no route.
There's no route. The route was changed, okay? And I think the route is flexible enough that, listen, I'm not advocating for it and I'm not advocating against it. I'm just stating fact. The objective is to find the best route over time to satisfy the most patrons. And you know, the real issue is it do we need public transportation in the town? From a dollar point of view, I mean, it's not significant, okay? We have a $95 million budget, $175,000, not significant. It's not. We can put on people at $175,000 with a flash, so I'm not concerned about the dollar value.
No, it's not insurmountable. It is significant.
Okay. No, Jeff was next.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, to your point, and about the ridership, you know, I know Chris Moran asked Harold for the town study, you know, so if the town owned the bus, we received today.
Right.
Okay, so not a long time to look at it, and I remember the number thrown out, over 400,000. I'm looking at it, 364,000 is the number. That assumes 13,000 riders. Why are we not assuming 30,000 riders since it's in the NWRTA grant? You know, because that's a different revenue number, that would bring that number down even further. This number has $65,000 senior center expense. Why? That is not in the NWRTA number either. So-
That wouldn't be. I think that what you're looking at, and I could be wrong, is that if the town does the buses at the senior center, because that's where that's where we have most of the patrons. And that number, I think, is for a full-time schedule, full-time operations director.
Oh, that's a separate line.
I didn't look at that, so.
Yeah, we just got it today, so in fairness. So, but I'm saying, the bottom line is, all these things, you know, we were sold things that is so much more money than the NWRTA, and we're just getting the information today that I don't think we've had time to digest it. I don't think we're ready to go.
Yeah.
I hear as many, if not more, I don't knows, or we need to find out this week than we did, when did we vote this? 2 weeks ago or last week?
Last week.
Last week. So, I mean,
2 weeks,
I wasn't ready then to support it at this particular town meeting. Might I be ready in October? Possibly. Might I be ready for this plan or some other plan? I don't know. But there's another I don't know. So, you know, I think we've made enough attempts at understanding a lot of things. I don't see what holding this thing back a few months to get some of the I don't knows or what happens and get a metrics
Mr.
that
Chair.
can be used to analyze where we are is gonna hurt the transportation.
Mr. Chairman, when Mr. Kachecki is finished.
Are you done?
Am I done, Mike? Okay. Go ahead.
He never looks this way, that's why I said.
I do look that way. I just called on him before. Of course I look that way.
One thing we do know is that the reason, the compelling reason for starting it now was to be able to go initiate a pilot program during the warm weather summer months, and you could get the route and everything established. If you wait till October, you're in the winter. It's dark, there's other things that have not had time to be worked out. So that's number one compelling reason for doing it now, besides also getting a grant. And we're talking about putting a service into town for the lowest income people.
Not
And it's-
necessarily. I wouldn't go there for that.
Well, okay, but that's a part of it. Anecdotally, that's a part of it. You're talking about people that don't have opportunities for transportation on their own. Let's put it that way. Opportunities for people that don't have transportation on their own
Better.
to get around the town. Now, anecdotally, I traveled through Milford, I traveled through Marlboro, Southborough, Framingham, and guess what? I see these buses all the time, and there's a lot of people in them. So if you build it, they'll come. And interesting, because I can remember 20 years ago, if someone told me they were gonna add on to the Milford Regional Hospital, Milford Hospital at the time, I would've said, are you crazy? Building that hospital up any bigger than it is now? What happened, Mr. Sir McCauley, when they built that hospital up? So build it, it'll be people there for it, it's a benefit to the town, and it's not that much, and it's a pilot program, and we have a grant. So I don't think we should delay it. I think we should go with what we
don't even have a
did.
route yet.
So you fix the route in the summertime, that's the point, Aldo. You fix it in the summertime.
You don't have one.
We do have a principal route, we got a route that has places that people wanna go
I've
to.
seen 5 routes.
All right, guys. I mean, I think the, one second. I think the root, issue is, how do you be objective about this? I think the root issue is a flexible solution based on the number of riders and where people need to go. I think eventually they'll have a fixed route. I don't think they're gonna start with, when they're gonna start with a proposed fixed route. And as you mentioned today, that the chief was gonna look at that.
When you're ready.
Yeah, this young lady wants to talk, I don't even know who you are. Listen, we don't usually take, this is not an open session. The only people that talk from the gallery are town officials. So I'll allow the discussion. Who are you and what do you want to talk about, what do you represent?
My name is Donna Nero, and I'm representing citizens from Milford.
Mr. Chairman, I think Don Nero is my spouse, just for full disclosure.
Lucky you.
Thank you very much. I agree.
Well done, Mr. Chairman.
I think.
Want that later.
I think the time is okay now that all the kids went to bed, right?
Now, Jeff, the cast has nothing to do with the fact that she's speaking.
No,
That's true.
I would like you to come up front and talk. Now, please understand that what I said at the very beginning is that we're not talking about alternatives here,
Correct.
okay?
Yep, that's completely understood.
Help her, will you?
Right, she's not technical involved. Jeff, will you help her?
And you have a broken arm.
Which may get worse as, please.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to the board. I had a lot of comments prepared to share with you, and with the due diligence of the board, you have brought out a lot of the points that I was going to share with you. So I won't be redundant on some of them. To speak to Mr. Schiavi's point about the buses being located in Marlboro and Natick, those are generally point-to-point buses. Now, I'm not an authority on this, and I don't claim to be, but those are generally point-to-point buses along major roadways. So along Route 9 in Framingham and Natick. The Marlborough route is along Route 20. It consists of 5 or 6 stops at major locations. What is currently being proposed in town is a fixed intra-Milford loop. Now, as you said, we do not know the details of this route yet. It was originally proposed as a 29-stop, 1 hour and 15-minute route. And I understand, the reason that the route keeps changing, but it makes it difficult to make a decision on information that is undergoing frequent change. Presently, it's my understanding that the route will be between 14 to 18 stops and slated to have a duration of approximately 45 minutes. Now, if you've ever traveled at 5 p.m. from, let's say, Coles to Milford Hospital, I think it is going to be a feat to get from that location to another in 45 minutes during times of high traffic volume, especially considering that the bus will have to stop along that route, allow passengers on and off, taking into account that disabled, those in wheelchairs, will need extra time to board and unboard. And also, the bus will be mandated to deviate, according to ADA regulations, up to 1.5 miles. That would be 3/4 of a mile in one direction and back to pick up an ADA certified rider. It's felt that this current proposal isn't perhaps the best proposal that meets the needs of our residents in the most safe, efficient, and cost-effective way. We are not suggesting that we have all the answers at this point, and that's another point, is that all options should be scrutinized, investigated, and thoroughly vetted before making a decision on this. And Mr. Chairman, you and the board should be commended for having a long history of vetting all projects that come before you. And it's critical that this one be thoroughly vetted as well before any decision is made to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir?
With regards to the time in a loop, and of course, as we've all said, it is subject to change. If I don't have a way of getting from point A to point B, what are my choices? Not go? When you don't have a car, you will wait for the bus. There are a lot of people in this town who don't have a car, who don't have the ability to get from point A to point B, and they're in desperate need of this type of transportation. Now, we can forestall it all we want, but you're not doing the population of Milford any good. I can tell you right now, come October, if you wait until then, there is not going to be any more of a distinct route than there is now, because it has to be worked on. That's the purpose of a pilot program.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir?
Mike, if I may, with regards to your statement, without the known route, how can you say that these people are going to be served? You don't know where that bus is going.
I can't account for every person in Milford.
No, you
I'm
can't.
talking about the general body of
No, you
population.
made the statement that there are people there
And if the person
today
has to
that
walk 3
can't,
blocks
do
to
not
a
have, excuse me, I was
bus
speaking,
stop,
excuse me. You made the statement that people today do not have access, but they will with this proposed bus route. How do you know that if you don't have a route that's established? How do you know where the bus stops are? You don't. How do you know what the impact of the ADA requirement is? You don't. That's the reason my opposition is couched in.
And what will delay it
Excuse me, I
accomplish?
haven't finished, Mike, excuse me, I haven't finished. We are being asked to evaluate and vet a plan that is unknown. It was purported to us that X number of riders were going to be taking the bus. There would be an opportunity for them to seek employment along Fortune Boulevard, that they would be able to make appointments at the hospital, doctor's appointments, shopping, etc. That route has now evaporated. There is no route to vet. There is no route to determine how many stops are there. The other point, Mr. Chairman, that I think people miss is we have not established, to your point, Just what is this going to cost? Without an unknown number of stops, how much are these shelters going to cost to construct? And do we construct them on a trial? What is the cost of the right-of-way work? What is the cost to maintain them to the highway department when graffiti is sprayed on them? What is the cost to remove the snow? What is the cost to illuminate them? What is the cost to bring the electricity in there to illuminate them? All of these unknowns make it very, very difficult to vote favorable on something that can't be measured, can't be analyzed, and again, it's just, I don't think we're at a point where people can stand up and say, this is something we can support, even if it's in a pilot program. I'm okay with a pilot program, but we need to have something substantial. You need to be able to go in there and say, this is what was planned, and we don't have that today. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we vote unfavorable on Article, what was the number?
23.
23.
Second.
Wait a minute.
Seconded by Jeff.
I might have cut off
There's
this.
already a motion on the floor.
No, the motion
Well,
on
you
the
can
floor
still
was
discuss
for
it.
reconsideration.
You can still discuss.
Motion on the floor was for reconsideration. We
didn't-
agreed to
Aldo
reconsider.
moved unfavorable and DeVita seconded it. Is that not this one? Or is that, that's
No, that
previous?
was the reconsider.
Okay,
That's not this one.
that's the,
The only-
okay.
The only motion that was made was for
Okay.
reconsideration, seconded, voted on.
So motion
No-
by
No motion
DeVita.
on the floor at the moment. DeVita, Bobby is making one now, is to vote unfavorable on Article 23 after reconsideration.
Do we have a second?
Jeff,
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question?
you open for discussion.
What was the vote in the last meeting?
6-5 is
6-5
favorable.
favorable.
And how many Finance Committee members are here tonight?
Two less than were there last time.
Change the swing of the,
Three less, I'm sorry.
change the swing significantly of the vote.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
So, to the point of order, I think that's.
No, and that was one of the points I was going to bring up, and I should have said it earlier. We had a vote with 12 members here. Because I didn't vote. 1, 2, 3,
No, we
4,
have 10.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 10. Two of the members that are not here, I don't know how they voted.
One we know voted favorable.
That was Chris.
Sure.
And what was Jerry's vote?
Mr. Chairman?
They all voted favor, because the 5 noes are here.
Right.
Oh, okay, that
Yes, sir.
answers.
This vote to, or the motion to vote favorable amounts to a motion to rescind the earlier vote.
Yeah, that's.
Motion to rescind requires a 2/3 majority.
Right, that's why it's reconsideration vote. Exactly,
2/3 of the present,
of the present.
not 2/3 of the entire.
Present and voting,
I don't know the exact answer to that, but I believe 2/3 of the present
and voting.
and voting.
Right,
No, but Aldo, the difference is, it's 2/3 of the 10,
right.
not 2/3 of the
But that doesn't mean
15.
all 10 have to vote.
It requires either 2/3 vote or a majority vote with prior notice,
But we didn't have prior
or
notice.
a majority of the entire membership, which would still amount to 8.
Right.
Right, and that was one of the issues I was going to discuss after this discussion, before the vote. We had 11 members here last time, and 2 different votes of the absent members. I don't know if it's fair to discuss or vote on this with those 2 less members. You know, from the rules, I understand 2/3 is right. I just,
Why is this, Mr. Chairman, why is this different than the reconsideration of the 300,000 that we did for the school, for the budget? Why is it, wasn't it, that was a reconsideration as well, right?
no. No, it wasn't.
Was it?
No. We didn't have anything on the warrant that we voted to reconsider. All right. Okay. Look, we've been discussing this for over an hour. Take the vote. All in favor of an unfavorable recommendation after consideration? 1,
Chuck? Unfavorable.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of 10. That's not enough.
6, but either way, it doesn't work.
Right, it's not enough.
Motion fails.
Motion to vote unfavorable has failed.
Because 6,
After reconsideration.
regardless of whether you interpret it
Me,
as
I didn't vote. I
two-thirds
didn't
of the
vote the last time
total,
either. Yeah, he voted.
which would be 10, or 2/3 of the present, which would be 8.
Right.
Either way, it
Either way.
fails.
Right.
It fails, so the original,
Recommendation stands.
Right.
Okay. Any other new business? Any old business?
Move for adjournment.
Not optional. Okay, thank you. I expect to see everybody at town meeting sitting at the front desk.